Honorable members, Madam Speaker.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and revelation place have appointed the office of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society as government of humanity. We beseech you to look upon the abundantly with your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important trust in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, feel and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation, and so just and faithful a manner of promotion and glory, and advance the good of those whose interests are committed to their church.
Item 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I want to welcome you to this afternoon's sitting. I just want to remind you of tomorrow's sitting. Pursuant to Article 101 of the Constitution, the President will be addressing the House, and we'll have a sitting in Kololo. I know that is not okay with my brother Haji, but we have no option. We are putting up our building, a big one. Next time we shall not be going to those other places. Our building will be finished very soon. Honorable members, we are going to have that building finished, and we are going to have offices for all members of parliament. Where lands is, where development house is, the construction is starting. And in 1 year, you will all have offices there. One-stop center. You're going to have that. Yesterday, we had institutions that are not made their ministerial policy statements. We had education. I'm happy education is here. Lands is here. Oh, is also here, but yours was the. So I want to welcome you. And members, you see what is happening now. There are too much rains. Yesterday, somebody was washed off, border man, and even he died. We need to check. Kampala City Council must check the potholes which are there. The Minister of Disaster should also be alert on whatever is happening and see how we can solve this problem. It was a dry wet crying of the dry season. Now rains have come, people are suffering, and we need to work on the potholes, especially in Kampala here. Even up country, we are not saying work on the road, we are saying cover the potholes. Yesterday, a border man died in the, I think, why is it? So we really need to look at that. The Minister of Kampala should look at that. The Minister of Disaster should also handle those issues so that we have people safe. Honorable members, of recent we've had media talking about iron sheets. And I've always said, in my district, I got a call that, iron sheets have been brought. And when they were taken, I said, give it to the schools. Little did I know that the iron sheets were made for another region. But after thorough analysis and looking at if the iron sheets were meant for Karamoja, not for Bukedea, I have taken a personal decision as a leader that since it was not allocated to my district, but also the iron sheets were given already out, I have decided to buy 500 iron sheets and give it back. I have sent my personal assistant to take back the iron sheets to OPM. I have taken a personal responsibility, and but I must also thank the person who thought of Bukedea, though it was maybe a wrong thinking, but I must thank them so much. But because I don't want to be like I grabbed, I have decided to send them back. I want to thank you so much. I don't want to be ashamed to Parliament. And I'm doing this for the House. Thank you. Yes, the Leader of Opposition.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, in the course of your communication, I must say, I am one of those that should say I'm the happiest to hear the statement that you have just made. It is a show of deep remorse, and I would say that the rest that are adversely mentioned in the saga of iron sheets meant for the vulnerable communities of Karamoja should follow suit. They should equally show remorse and not only being remorseful, but pick a leaf from you and even go an extra mile to double. Madam Speaker, I'm reliably, I'm reliably informed that you received without even your knowledge or solicitation 300. But here you are, you have
No,
even
it's
bought,
500.
now you have bought double or close to double what you received. 500. You have actually gone back to the Bible days. Like Zacchaeus, when he got saved, he said, I will pay double. And I would implore and urge those, and they are from the side of my majority, Madam Speaker, to borrow leave and also do likewise. Madam Speaker, besides that, I want to applaud your decision to relocate tomorrow's sitting to Kololo. And it is in your discretionary powers. But it comes with the restrictions, COVID-19 restrictions, which were officially lifted by the ministry, the line Ministry of Health, that there is a stringent requirement for members to be subjected to the PCR test, Madam Speaker, without even giving due consideration to other options like face masking, social distance. And you know, the president sits extremely far from the members. Madam Speaker, I would seek your indulgence to allow members, like there are some members who may arrive tomorrow and may not have sufficient ample time on their hands to go for that test. That maybe we use the other option, employ the other option of social distance, rather than strictly zeroing on the one of PCR test, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Point taken. Honorable members, one thing I want to let you know that the office of the Prime Minister is the one housing number of these ministries. When you receive something from the office of the Prime Minister, you may think maybe it is from disaster. And you may not know whether it is coming from Karamoja, from Northern, from Tesa, and whichever. And when we receive some of these things, we get it, we think it is in good faith. And our constituencies need them. But because of that, we think, okay, have what belongs to you. Yes, Honorable Segona, Semujo, Remedial, Nakut. I'm coming to Independence also. Doctor is also there.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you very much. I think I can only join the leader of the opposition in thanking you for taking a positive decision. And I want to draw a distinction between people who were invited, told there are relief items here, from those who actually manage those relief items. You where they were intended benefit visited on them. I'm not about to forgive them. Right, Honorable Speaker, regarding going to Kololo tomorrow, I wanted to seek clarification because this thing of the testers, the COVID test has been consistent. But I wanted to know, and I'm always willing to take that COVID test because I do not want to be a danger to other people. I want to seek clarification from you on our behalf, whether you have been privy the president's results so that equally we do not get infected. We need to protect each other, and the president has a duty to protect us.
Honorable Segona, we are going to have everybody tested, including the president himself. And if you will be positive, you will not come. You won't come. But everybody is going to be tested. And of course, we agreed one can attend virtually, like Mama Janet. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to thank you for being exemplary. The items for Karamoja will need to go to Karamoja. Madam Speaker, yesterday, the leader of government business was missing here. Even today, she's missing.
I have seen.
And not representative, I mean her in fresh. So I wanted to find out if she has already been arrested because she took 3,000 iron sheets. Or she is writing a statement at police because even today,
It's on procedure.
even today, the main stories in the newspapers is that ministers are going to begin recording statements. I can see Musas is still here. I don't know if he has finished his. But I want to know and see us whether the leader of government business has not been arrested. So we report to police that she's here because we have a civic duty. People
Thank
that
you.
police is looking for, we report when we have seen them.
I got a communication from Honorable Nabanja, the Prime Minister, that she's having another engagement and should be sending Honorable Momomba. So she's not arrested, she's not a thief, she has not done anything. Remedial. Yes, procedure.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. You gave the responsibility to the committee to investigate this matter and report.
I
to
have
House.
already ruled on it.
Thank you. This matter, Speaker,
It's a very sad one, but we thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your integrity. We thank you for taking the first step. And I want to inform this out what this matter came for. Madam Speaker guided me. One petition on the same day, she quickly said, this is about them. She referred this matter to the and she has been following it up that we must get the bottom of it because this be happening. And be happening in Jora affairs, Wera affairs, Teso affairs, Northern Uganda. But how do you explain the fact that even Namuyangu, who controls iron sheet, also got iron sheet for Karamata? When she has iron sheets. It's very sad. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this.
Thank you. Members, can we go to matters of national importance? Yes, Alex?
Thank you very much, Honorable, Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues. I thank you for this opportunity. You know, Shakespeare says that simplicity signifies the magnanimity of a soul. And that if you can share with Her Majesty and you don't lose that common touch, then you are a real big man, big lady. Thank you, Madam Right Honorable Speaker, for that magnanimity. Thank you for that simplicity. Thank you for coming out to show leadership. I pray that all those who receive maybe those iron sheets unintentionally, honestly, it can happen to any one of you and even me. And you come out to say, yes,
Yes. Press it. You press.
thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I do pray most sincerely from the bottom of my heart. I am an elder in this house as well. I think it's very important that this example you have given, you have shown that kind of good leadership, be immediately followed up by other colleagues. We all know that very many of these honorable colleagues of ours are really innocent. Just like it would happen, it can happen to you and to me. But the person who was maybe dishing out, that might have to look for something more convincing to do with at least me. I want to thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Vero.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise on a particular matter. Right Honorable Speaker, on 22nd July last year, I raised the matter of national importance about the death on Valley Dams, Masimbi. Indeed, you directed the Prime Minister, who directed the Minister of Agriculture to come to Masimbi. The minister sent the Undersecretary, Mr. Hall.
Is that on the communication? We are still on the communication. And now that is an independent, you speak.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. In your communication, Right Honorable Speaker, you stated about the ruins that have washed away the person and the disciples. Equally, Right Honorable Speaker, for us who come from the areas with poor topography, the rains are too much and the most valleys are submerged by water and floods. Right Honorable Speaker, it is the time for P7 pupils to register for PLE. And these days, because most valleys in Kigezi especially, they are submerged by water, pupils cannot travel from their respective primary schools to go to the district to register. They require a need. Now, Mr. Right Honorable Speaker, I wanted to implore the Minister of Education who is here, provide an alternative near areas for where children can go and register for PLE because it has become a problem. Equally, because thank you.
Thank you. I think all ministries should immediately devise an emergency intervention on these issues. We have a Minister of Works, Education, Disaster. Of course, finance also will need money for that. Let's look at what we can do. Honorable Minister of Education, do you have something?
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank my colleague for raising that critical issue. I was just sharing with finance. Did he said most of the region in Uganda, Kabale, and around there are a lot of challenges in terms of this time that there is a heavy rain for the children to cross from one region to another, especially nearby school. So, Madam Speaker, I've noted the challenge and I really pity the regions that are affected. And I want to pledge that we will liaise with our technical people to probably map up those critical areas that needs urgent intervention. And we work together with the Ministry of Works, as you've stated, and Disaster and Finance to see what we can do as a remedy, immediate remedy, to ensure the PLE candidates, they are registered timely for their PLE examination. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank you for your leadership, especially on the matter of iron sheets. In Karamoja, we live in the justice of restoration. If you steal somebody's car, you pay it, you refund it. So I will implore on the others who received to refund it. Secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, we expected the committee that you assigned the job to investigate this matter to be in Karamoja this week. But we learned by Monday that they were unable to travel for logistical reasons. We request you, Right Honorable Speaker, with the
order is on. Yes.
Right Honorable Speaker. Stealing is an ingredient of theft in our criminal law book. The holder of the law then did suggest that those who did return the iron sheets did steal in her juxtaposition. Is she in order to allege that in returning the iron sheets you would have stolen? Because being found in possession of stolen property, you are a thief. Are we proceeding well? Is she in order?
We are actually not proceeding well. First of all, whoever got iron sheets did not steal. They did not even solicit for them. They were given. Just like I said, they were delivered in my district and they just called, there are iron sheets here, what do we do? My response was give to the what? To the schools, and not a private schools, government schools. So you are not in order.
much obliged, Right Honorable
Expand it
Speaker.
from the
I expand that statement. I acknowledge that colleagues, the iron sheets located themselves in people's compounds without their knowledge.
Honorable Nakut, you're spoiling your own case. You're spoiling your own case.
I'll take your guidance positively.
Because one thing is, and I have always said, all the people who are mentioned did not ask for those iron sheets. Even if I ask, the discretion is yours to either give me or not give me. First of all, you know where those iron sheets are supposed to go. unless if it is coming from a donation account of yours, not a diversion from where it's meant to be. So you should not push the blame onto other people. My action is because I don't want the name of parliament to be tainted. That is why I'm doing it. I would have as well said it was given to vulnerable people. My people are equally vulnerable like yours. So what is the difference? They did not take it to Kenya. They took it to Bukedea, to where, which is in Uganda. Actually, after this, I also need them in my constituency.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. On the issue of the committee, Right Honorable Speaker, we seek your indulgence to ensure the committee reaches home. People have been waiting in all our district headquarters since Monday to give their evidences to the committee.
The committee, we have a very good leadership in that committee. The committee will be in the constituency and they will do their work. It's just that they had an interaction with the minister today and technical people. That's why they did not travel. They cannot travel and leave the interaction they are proposed. So they will be there and we'll have a report in this house.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Second issue in your communication is about the rains. The rains are both a curse and a blessing. They are a blessing when we prepare to harvest the rainwater. Right Honorable Speaker, we have some valley dams that are silted. The Ministry of Water has equipment, and we've made requests to the Ministry of Water and to the Ministry of Agriculture. They have equipment. If this water could be harvested, then our livestock and crop farmers would be sorted. But the Ministry of Water says they are unable to proceed with the silting because they have no resources to deploy those machines. I seek your support so that the valley dams, which we already have in Karamoja that has silted, can be desilted to tap into this water that is going to waste. Thank you, Right Honorable.
Minister of Water. Nyakato, Finance. No, Minister of Water, take note of that. And you also need to take note of what Honorable Veronica was saying on the valley dams. Matters of national importance.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me chance. I raise on the matter of national importance, Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues. Right Honorable Speaker and members, aware that 8th March was a Women's Day. And like elsewhere, Ugandans celebrated it. I also joined the people of Hoima All City celebrate it by organizing a series of activities which included tree planting and organizing for a women's football tournament. Madam Speaker, to my disappointment, the police led by the Resident State Commissioner, Mugabe, tear gassed, fired live bullets and stray bullets to disperse the gatherings, which seriously affected pregnant women, young girls, persons with disability, and even me myself, to an extent that they even had to tear gas people, women who had tried to set up some small businesses to come and earn a livelihood on that event. Madam Speaker, this led to the unceremoniously end up of the day's event, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if a woman member of parliament cannot be allowed to celebrate with fellow women in her constituency, who can be allowed to do that? Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, my prayers. I pray that the Minister of Presidency, who is in charge of the residence district commissioners and the city commissioners, and the Minister of Defense and Internal Affairs come out and explain why security organs have continued to contravene Article 29 of the Constitution that protects freedom of expression, movement, assembly, and association. Right Honorable Speaker, I also pray that the resident city commissioner and DPC Hoima West Division be disciplined for such an unlawful act. Finally, Madam Speaker and colleagues, I pray that the costs encountered should be reimbursed so that I do facilitate the organization of a press ceremony. I beg to submit, Madam Speaker.
The reimbursement is from where? Government.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. It's very unfortunate what happened to the fellow women, young girls, but I'm also sure even men must have been affected. Whatever affects a woman also affects a man. Right Honorable Speaker, I will let, given permission, the Minister for Internal Affairs will be the one to explain that, because that is an issue of internal affairs, not defense and not presidency. Right Honorable Speaker, the person in charge of order in the country, internal affairs, is the one responsible.
Achon? Yes.
Madam Speaker, RDCs are part of the presidency. The tear gassing of the function is what the Minister of Internal Affairs can explain. The person, whatever person holding the head of government business, be modest enough to relay the same message to those who are responsible for presidency. To rein in the RDC, stop behaving like savages, because they do it in many constituencies. You have that duty. You cannot just push it away that internal affairs will come and explain. The RDCs must be dealt with.
I think what Honorable Lumumba needs to do is to inform the different line ministers.
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members. What she has raised and her complaint was basically the actions of police. So for police, in their reasoning, by the way, even if the RDC commands police and police sees that that is not reasonable enough for them to put in such actions, they are the ones that must explain to this country. But it does no harm to coordinate all of the ministries and we get a comprehensive report about the issue. And I'll do that. Thank you.
Honorable members, your order now is on who? She has already said you can't have an order.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I've served as a resident city commissioner here in Kampala. And according to the regulations in this country, RDCs are the security head in a city or a district. They supervise police and any other security organ in the area. And RDCs are under the Ministry of Presidency. And therefore it is the presidency. At that time when the RDC is leading, it is the presidency leading. Is it therefore in order for the minister to come and tell us that for any operations then the district is internal affairs, well, supervising officer is the RDC under presidency in order?
Honorable Lumumba, I think it's a simple thing. Just give information to those ministers and they handle it.
Right Honorable Speaker. In my previous statement, I've said we shall coordinate all of those ministries and there is a comprehensive report.
Achon? We'll expect a feedback next week.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues. Raised on the matter of national importance, which happened, took a district on the 6th last month. Honorable Speaker and colleagues were aware of the heavy rain which is coming around and the heavy wind. What happened on the 6th, one of the schools, primary school, took by them and the Moroto Primary School. The wind and the heavy rain blew away the roof, 3 classes, which is 6 stream. And as we talk now, the pupils, they can't even study under the tree because the rain had been constant from morning up to 12 o'clock. Honorable Speaker, we have the Honorable Minister for Education here, my appeal. If the government and our ministry take the action and provide, we requested the 300 iron sheets and 300 bag of cement. I know iron sheets has been a big story in this country, but I think such a case should be handled immediately. Thank you so much.
Honorable Minister.
Right, Honorable Speaker, it's really a pity. The rain is a blessing, but at the same time, very destructive to our schools. We have received those complaints already in some parts of the country. One is from my colleague, Tuke. Honestly, the children have got nowhere to sit because the roof is blown off and we do not have immediate emergency measure like providing tents. Madam Speaker, it appears the issue of iron seat that my friend is requesting for, the Ministry of the Prime Minister's Office under the Disaster Department seems not to be having iron seat to address such emergency measures. So in that case, Madam Speaker.
Order.
Madam Speaker, I'm hearing in the background that the Prime Minister's Office has got iron seat for disasters. In that case, we will undertake the obligation through the Ministry of Local Government.
Honorable Minister, you've got the message from the Member of Parliament. Send a team there to assess what can be done. And it is only after making the assessment that you can be able to respond.
Much obliged, Madam Speaker. We will do the needful.
It is not a matter of giving iron sheets, giving it and you do what? It is a government school.
Yes, we will undertake the assessment through our, Madam Speaker, we have the local government unit and also we have the Ministry of Education and Sport Management Unit, the technical team. We will liaise with the local government to do that need assessment and get the report and submit to the necessary office.
Right, Honorable Speaker. First, I'm very happy and I want to thank my system. It's a big effort, especially from a person who does not command the finances. Yesterday, you guided us very well. Now, as I suppose that we have the substantive minister on Zoom, may we have a policy commitment on matters of this nature. I believe that the Honorable Janet Seven Kataha is with us on Zoom. May we have a policy commitment from the minister, because I can see the difficulty with which my sister, the Minister of State, is making the expressions that we are witnessing.
Right, Honorable Speaker and honorable members. the office of the Prime Minister, we have the Ministry of Disasters and Refugee and Disaster Preparedness. As we talk now, we have iron sheets in store. So let's get communication from the District Disaster Committee, which is chaired by the cow, and Right Honorable, the needful will be done so that our children don't suffer more.
Bitek. Then Charles.
Madam Speaker, it is tried that every ruling of this House becomes binding. When I did report here, the committee that the Minister for Presidency today is relying on, that of disaster, I don't know whether, first of all, it is disaster itself. And in Olal Primary School, 1 year down the road, the same ministry took 200 iron sheets to a Molata, to an Inolal, and abandoned it. And Inolal, as I talk, is submerged in the waters of Lake Kyoga. Does an Inolal still stand as part of your schools being governed by your ministry? So there are commitments that are being made here that are not followed up by backing and commitments from ministries. And so for how long shall we be sent on a wild goose chase?
But tell me one thing, Minister. When a school has a problem like this one, you just give iron sheets or you go and work on the building?
Right Honorable Prime Minister, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, when a disaster of such nature occurs in any school in Uganda, the first step is that the Disaster Management Committee of the district takes stock of what has happened and they make a report. The Disaster Management Committee is chaired by the cow, and that report comes to our ministry, and then my ministry forward to the ministry, the Prime Minister's office, under the Department of Disaster and Refugees. And it is then that if there are iron seat available, plus, according to the need assessment,
There
according
is a
to the
procedural
budget.
matter.
Thank you, Right Honorable. I want to find out from the minister or the ministers in charge here. Right Honorable, when they were giving out iron sheets to themselves, they never sought for the letter from the cow or anybody. But for us, when we need these relief items for serious matters, we are supposed to go through the bureaucracy and end up not getting. Right Honorable, I think this is very disheartening. Right Honorable, we request that they release some of these items without any conditions.
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members. Right Honorable Speaker, my prayer to you is, we are before the Presidential Affairs Committee for the same. I would really request that instead of us preempting to begin bringing details here, we'll be preempting, we'll be going against our own work as Parliament. So my prayer is, can we have that discussion when the report is ready? Because I know part of it will be a way forward and recommendations that will help us to move better.
Madam Speaker, you had given me a chance.
Honorable members, as I said before, there is a problem in the schools, roads, and all of that. Can we have all the members whose schools are affected write letters bring and we handle it to the ministry. Those ones with the issues of the roads, the dams, right, and we forward it to the Minister of Water. Then the ones, write to me. Write to me. Then we forward it to the respective ministries. Because we are going to spend the whole day here talking about matters of national importance. Where the minister fails to act is now when we shall come back to the floor and say, this is what we had asked you to do, and you failed to do.
Speaker.
Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I am very much appreciative of that guidance. At least now we know where to go. However, my concern and where I'm seeking your guidance, one, is it not better to have a policy in place? Because I listened to Mrs. Katuchu, Honorable Mrs. Katuchu. She was only talking about, and I think even the Prime Minister, we are talking about iron sheets, and we are talking about government schools. Now, when you get iron sheets, go and drop them at the school, the Prime Minister's office. How about who's going to drop the bricks? Who's going to drop the cement?
Who is going to roof it, the timber,
Exactly.
all that kind of
Must
thing.
have a policy.
No, that's why I'm saying, right, let's we'll write back to the ministry. They do an analysis and we see what has taken place. Members in the public gallery this afternoon, we have students from Makerere University Law School. They've come to observe the proceedings. You're most welcome. Thank you for coming. We also have in the public gallery this afternoon, we have students from Mayuge Light Secondary School. They are represented by Honorable Rukia and Honorable Honorable Bajire. You're most welcome. Thank you for coming. And then in the public gallery still, we have a delegation of students from Cavendish University Law School. Welcome. Join me in welcoming them. They've come to follow the proceedings of this afternoon. Honorable members, on issues of national importance, we are going to get your issues. Write your issues, we forward to the respective ministries. Next item.
Item 3. Laying of papers.
Some other matters of national importance will be discussed, but because we are running out of time, we'll handle it. Yes.
Madam Speaker, yesterday, you directed the Minister of Public Service to bring a statement today. I have tried to get it from my iPad.
Why are you preempting what I was going to?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for your consideration.
Laying of papers.
In the laying of papers, we'll expect what we asked the ministry yesterday. Minister of Public Service. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we've largely spoken about education, but we have a Minister of Education that completely disregards this parliament. For 2 years, she hasn't stepped in parliament. Is there a reason why we should continue having this minister as a Minister of Education? Right Honorable Speaker, therefore, are we proceeding well to have a minister for such a very important ministry that completely disregards this house, does not step into the house at all, and even on Zoom, she's not even there? When does she take our issues so that they're taken into consideration? Are we proceeding well, Madam Speaker?
Honorable Aisha, you want to tell me that because Honorable Janet Kataham 7 has not come to the house, that schools are not operating? we have 4 ministers in that ministry. We have Honorable Kaduchu, she's here. Honorable Kwang is around. Honorable Muingo is there. And I have always told you, I know Hajats are very respectful people. Now she's sitting. Honorable Janet Kataha Museveni, when she has an issue, it comes on Zoom. But because she didn't know she had an issue today, that's why you can't see her on Zoom. And if you want, she'll be in the house tomorrow. I want you to raise all your matters to her tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Further to your guidance, the Constitution provides for appointment of ministers. And if you read that article, it says the president shall appoint the ministers. And in the subsequent article, it says the president shall appoint other ministers. So ministers of state are alternative ministers. They are substantive, yes. And therefore, when the minister of state in the house, the ministry is substantively represented in the house. That's the interpretation of the law.
Honorable Minister, my Minister of Education is in the house. So long as you're on Zoom, she's in the house. If you want her to say hello to you, you can go for a cup of tea in Nakasero. The next item.
Item 3, laying of papers, ministerial policy statements and budget estimates for the financial year 2023-2024. Item 3.1, Ministry of Education and Sports.
Honorable Minister, as I earlier stated, yesterday there were some ministries that did not present the papers, and that is ministerial statements. And we are doing this in conformity with the Public Finance Management Act 2015, Section 13, subsection 13, and rules of procedure, Rule 1461 of the rules of procedure. And we'll get the ministerial statements and send to the sectoral committees. That should be able to report back by 20th of next month. That's April, and that's a constitutional date. And as I said before, under Rule 147, the opposition is supposed to give an alternative. So can we now receive the ministerial policy statements?
Right, Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, in accordance with Section 13 and subsection 13 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2015, as amended, I beg to lay on the table the ministerial policy statement for the Ministry of Education and Sports, vote 013, and other votes under the Education, Sports and Skills Development sub-program for the financial year 2023 and 2024. Vote 111, National Curriculum Development Center, NCDC. Vote 128, Uganda National Examination Board, UNEB. Vote 132, Education Service Commission. Vote 164, National Council for Higher Education. Vote 165, Uganda Business and Technical Examinations Board. Vote 166, National Council for Sports. Vote 301, Makerere University. Vote 302, Mbarara University of Science and Technology. Vote 304, Chiambogo University. Vote 305, Usitema University. Vote 306, Moni University. Vote 307, Kabale University. vote 308, Soroti University, vote 309, Ulu University, vote 310, Lira University, vote 312, Uganda Management Institute, vote 313, Mountains of the Moon University, and vote 612, local governments. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay and I thank you.
Please lay, I refer you to the Committee of Education and Sports.
Item 3, Ministry of ICT and National Guidance.
ICT.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Yes, the authority. But with the permission from the senior minister.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Pursuant to section 13. Yeah, Right Honorable Speaker, pursuant to section 13. The Public Finance Management Act 2015 as amended. I beg to submit the ministerial policy statement and budget estimates for financial year 2023-24 from the Ministry of Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance under 2 votes. Vote 0202, Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, and vote 126, National Information Technology Authority Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg today.
Thank you. Refer to the Committee of ICT and National Guidance.
Office of the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay on table the ministerial policy statement for financial year 2023-2024 for vote 003, Office of the Prime Minister.
You have only one vote under Prime Minister?
Yes, under Prime Minister, it's only one vote, 003.
Thank you. Refer to the Committee of Presidential Affairs.
Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development.
Yes, Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay on table the ministerial policy statement for vote 012, Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, and vote 156, Uganda Land Commission for the financial year 2023-2024. I beg to lay.
Thank you so much. Refer to Committee of Fiscal Infrastructure.
Public Service Commission.
Right Honorable Speaker and members, I beg to lay on table the ministerial policy statement for Public Service Commission, vote number 146. I beg to lay. Thank you. Refer to Public Service and Local Government.
Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay on table the ministerial policy statement and budget estimates for Science, Technology, and Innovation. Vote 167. And other votes. Vote 110 for Uganda Industrial Research Institute. I beg to lay.
You have only 2 votes?
Yes, right.
Okay, 167 and 110. Thank you. Refer to the Committee of Presidential Affairs. Minister of Public Service. You're supposed to bring a document, a report in regard to the staff of Science and Technology and then rare. Can we have the report laid on table so that we can go and study and then have a debate next week?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker and members. I beg to lay a report from a report from Minister of Public Service. And it is a partial report. At the moment, we have Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation staff and other agencies.
Honorable Minister, don't give us a partial report. Go and finalize.
Another one is coming, Right Honorable.
Now you go and complete it and then you bring a full report on Tuesday.
Thank you very much.
And actually you need to bring it earlier so that we upload for members to get.
Much obliged.
Thank you. Next item.
Item 4. Motion for adoption of the reports of the ad hoc committee on the Ujigali tax waiver.
Honorable Prime Minister, we have a motion on that report. How do we proceed? I don't see the Attorney General. Please advise us.
Right Honorable Speaker, we can let the report be presented while I look for my team to come here. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, yesterday this report again came and had some typos. What was called a typo, but it wasn't a typo. It was a material mistake and which has been corrected. The report which has been duly signed has been uploaded on your computers. So can you go ahead? I am happy the Attorney General has come. We can handle with Attorney General alone. After all, the issues are coming from the agreement.
Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I will go through the report and I would like to refer the members to page 4. I'll start with the background. The government over the years has demonstrated its commitment to improving investment climate in Uganda by supporting the development of significant infrastructure projects with private partners. Increasingly, the country's economic growth exacerbated the electricity demand, and the government sought to develop its generating capacity by inviting proposals from private partners. Government of Uganda worked with the AES Corporation and its affiliate AES Nile Power between 1996 and the second quarter of 2003 to implement the power station and the development of the UETCL line as a private sector project. On the 16th of January 2004, Government of Uganda published a request for proposals concerning the development of Ujigali hydropower project for the development of 200 megawatt Ujigali power project. Two, the prospectus was elicit expressions of interest from potential sponsors of the project. Two, it was provided a context for interested parties, interested potential sponsors to comment upon and seek clarification of the process of seeking a sponsor to develop the project. And three, to sell and convey all of its rights, title, and interest in the power station to the government of Uganda for the sum of $1 plus any other overdue capacity payment upon conclusion of the 30-year term of the power purchase agreement. Subsequently, the government acquired IPS Consortium as a sponsor that was required to form a special purpose vehicle to implement the 250 megawatt Ujigali hydropower project on Dumbbell Island along River Nile. On the 17th August 2005, Ujigali Energy Limited was incorporated as a special purpose vehicle to implement this project. It is noteworthy that over the years, the agreements between government of Uganda and BEL, which is Ujigali Energy Limited, have been amended to incorporate the new developments and changes necessitated by the passage of time during its execution. Below is the table that summarizes the agreements and the changes that were effected. The members can go through that. And that takes me to straight page 6. In July 2017, under Section 21 of the Income Tax Act, Parliament approved a 5-year corporation tax exemption that was supposed to end 30th June 2022 of the income earned by BEL concerning the operation of Ujigali hydroelectric power as a government intervention to reduce end user tariffs and generation tariff payable to BEL. The introduction of exemption did not, in effect, amend the agreement or formula used to compute the capacity charge. The committee noted that the development of Ujigali power project enhanced the power supply and access, but at a very high cost. A problem statement. Government of Uganda has increasingly invested in developing and generating electric power to ensure sufficient and stable supply to meet the increasing demand. This is critical for economic growth, poverty reduction, and the socio-cultural transformation of the country. For the financing of Ujigali to be secured, the government of Uganda entered into a public-private partnership with Ujigali Energy Limited through a power purchase agreement that would guarantee cash flows to repay the debt incurred. The government of Uganda guaranteed to pay BEL, that's Ujigali Energy Limited, the total capacity charge of the power plant, whether power is evacuated or not. Under Section 21 of the Income Tax Act, the Parliament of Uganda approved the 5-year corporate income tax exemption in July 2017. But despite all the interventions by government of Uganda, the power tariffs remain high until today. Upon this background, the ad hoc committee on Ujigali tax waiver was set up to investigate the intricacies of the agreements between BEL and government of Uganda to understand the effect of arrangements on the power tariffs to consumers. And now we report under the specific terms of reference that are listed on page 7. The methodology that was adopted. Our committee held meetings, reviewed documents, and made visits. The meetings we held included interaction with the Attorney General, the Auditor General, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, the Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited, Electricity Regulatory Authority, Ujigali Energy Limited, and the Uganda Revenue Authority. Our committee reviewed several documents as listed. We reviewed the request for proposals. We reviewed the initialing agreement, the memorandum and articles of association of Ujigali Energy Limited, the certificate of incorporation of Ujigali Energy Limited, the shareholders agreements between the various parties, Ujigali Holding Power, SG Ujigali Holdings Limited, Ujigali Energy Limited, and government of Consumption and Innovation Deed. We reviewed the amended and restated implementation agreements relating to the Ujigali Energy Limited. We reviewed the report of the Auditor General. We reviewed the audited accounts of Ujigali from 2006 to 2021. And we reviewed all the submissions. And Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I would like to lay the documents I have referred to in my report.
Thank you, Ms. May.
We also undertook fact-finding missions by visiting the power plant in Jinja to assess the status of the dam. We also did a comparative study in Kenya and interacted with the Ministry of Energy in Kenya, the Kenya Electricity Generating Company, Kenya Power, and the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. And I have laid among the documents the minutes of our meeting. Findings, observations, and recommendations. The ad hoc committee under TOR1, which was ascertain the government of Uganda's equity contribution in Ujigali and the return on investment. On 8th December 2007, government of Uganda entered into a shareholders agreement related to the operation of Ujigali Energy Limited with Ujigali Holdings Power Company Limited, SG Ujigali Holdings Limited, and Ujigali Energy Limited. The project's total equity was $199,866,000. Out of this equity, the government of Uganda's equity contribution was $20 million. Out of the $199 million, the equity of Uganda was $20 million. And the Ujigali Energy shareholders contributed $179,886,000. The government of Uganda's contribution was issued and classified under Class C ordinary shares, as summarized in the table. So basically, if you look at the table, we have two shareholders. We have the government of Uganda with 20 million under Class C. And then the Ujigali Energy Limited, who contributed 179 under Class A and Class B. The equity contribution to the project by the sponsors were in two parts. That is the 179. The expenditure incurred between 2005 amounted to $20.6 million that was split between Cite Global and Industrial Promotion Services, as you could see the figure. Further contribution to the tune of $159.22833 million were made between 2007, 2008, and 2012. The equity contribution of $20 million by government of Uganda was in kind. For the government of Uganda, the certificate of shares issued number 6 under the common seal of Ujigali Energy Limited to the minister holding the portfolio of finance, planning, and economic development, allotted a total of 360,000 Class C shares at 100 shillings, 100,000 shillings per share. This is equivalent to a capital contribution to the project of Uganda shillings 36.17 billion, but with no voting rights as a shareholder in the company as per the clause 13.1b of the agreement. Under the agreement in clause 4.1, if the government of Uganda's equity contribution is not entitled to payment of dividends and no redemption of shares under Class C until the repayment of tariff debt and interest on the tariff debt components of the capacity payments. Until they are paid to zero, government of Uganda was not entitled to any dividends. The committee noted that Ujigali equal to 50.25% and 49.75% of all authorized Class A shares, respectively. Additionally, Ujigali Holdings Company was issued Class B shares, including the share premium, provided their contribution for A and B shares does not exceed $60 million. On the other hand, Citi was also issued Class A and B shares with the share premium subject to the company's articles and memorandum of articles of association. The committee established that the financing mechanism of the project was incorporated in the tariff equity repayment and return. Members, I want you to take note of that term. It is going to come out often. Tariff equity repayment return was used as a financing mechanism through which the computation was based on. So that tariff equity repayment plan computation based on a standard amortization formula, which is below, the power purchase agreement was supposed to maintain a return of 19% to the shareholders. So the investors who invested in Ujigali were entitled to 19% return on investment. The committee could not establish how the 19% return of investment was negotiated. However, when we examined the original proposals, we looked at the proposal evaluation criteria set by the government of Uganda. It had capped the internal rate of return at 20%. So the bidders negotiated 19% return on investment. Now, colleagues, is a bit highly technical, but if you look at the formula, the amortization formula that is used to calculate the tariff equity repayment return is composed of the aggregate equity, which is the amount of the tariff equity repayment, which means the equity yield, and of course the aggregate equity as of the commercial operations debt. I don't want you to, I will try to simplify it as we move forward, but that is the formula, the amortization formula that is used to calculate the tariff equity repayment return that was used to pay the investor. The committee noted that the Electricity Regulatory Authority.
Chair, of course, you also need to tell the members the source of your what? Of your formula, that it was from a power purchase agreement.
Yes.
That's where that formula was got from.
Yes, Right Honorable Speaker, the power purchase agreement. This was part of the negotiated formula in the power purchase agreement. So the committee noted that the Electricity Regulatory Authority used the above formula to compute capacity charge payments based on the aggregate equity. So if you look at the formula, again, I want you to pay attention to the formula. The tariff equity repayment return is computed. One of the components of that computation is the aggregate equity. Aggregate equity means the total money that the investors contributed, just to simplify it. Okay? Now, the Electricity Regulatory Authority used the aggregate equity of 176.9 million US dollars. And because the investor had put in 176, they projected that in 5 years, the 176 will have earned interest of 206 million US dollars as interest based on 19%. So they projected that you are putting 176 million now. And while the dam construction is going on, in 5 years, this money will be worth what you have put in plus interest at 19%, which is $206 million. So as a result, they projected the future value of 383.4 million US dollars, which was used as the aggregate equity to be put in that formula to compute the tariff equity repayment return. So because of that, the monthly payments that were being paid since then were equivalent to 5.5 million US dollars. Monthly. That's what ERA has been paying since then. The committee observed that the issuance of Class C shares to government of Uganda with no voting rights denied the government the latitude to contribute to the governance of Ujigali Energy Limited and the return on its investment, despite the investment of $20 million. Yes. We also observed that under clause 1.1 of the power purchase agreement, the financial yield of Ujigali shareholding is put at 19%. Accordingly, the Class A shares and B shares that were due to the other investors were entitled to a dividend. So as at June 2022, Ujigali Energy Limited had paid out dividends to the tune of $475.7 million. So if you look at the table, since 2013, they have been paying out dividends, as you can see, from 2013, the dividends paid up to 2022 amount $475,740,974 US dollars. And the source of this information, we got it from Ujigali Energy Limited directors' reports and their audited financial accounts. I have informed you that we reviewed financial accounts from 2005 to 2021. The 19% return on equity we observed was very high, given that the bank lending rates at that time were around 6.5%. ERA, which is the Electricity Regulatory Authority, attributed the high rate to the country's low credit rating then that coincided with the global financial crisis at that time. However, we observed that the return on equity of 19% alone accounts for the 52% of the tariffs. The 19% return. If you are an investor here, you know the average return you get. 19% was very huge. The committee established, that at the commencement of the project, as part of the implementation agreement, government of Uganda undertook to lend Ujigali Energy Limited $90 million as a fast track after 6 months. Besides the fact that this loan was undisclosed in the loan payment schedules of Ujigali Energy Limited, the committee established that only $75 million was disbursed there. The agreements indicate $90 million. And the same money was repaid back to government of Uganda as agreed on 21st December 2007. The Accountant General, in his letter dated 14th December 2007, guided the reimbursement in 2 batches, as you can see in the table. So the money was repaid. When we asked the Minister of Finance about the balance 15 million, the Minister of Finance indicated that the balance was expensed to UETCL for other related costs such as VAT, NEMA, stamp duty, and insurance. Very critical observation. Whereas ERA considered the equity injection, remember the 176? Equity injection by Ujigali to compute the amortized interest and the future value. The best 5 million were being made. We established that the actual equity contribution was not 176, but $179.8 million. And the breakdown is as per the table. And the source are the Ujigali Energy reports and the audited financial accounts. So Ujigali, in their reports, they have said they have a different figure from what ERA had. Based on the formula and the computation of 5.5 million capacity payments per month to bear over a period of 30 years, the total financial obligation would amount to $2 billion. If you are to use that 5.5, since for 30 years, which is a period covered by the shareholders agreement, 2012 to 2042, the financial obligation would be $2 billion, as you can see in the figure. And members, if you think about that, think about the cost, the original cost of the dam. Remember, they put in 179, government put in what? Now, as indicated in the table area indicated, the equity of Ujigali Energy Limited of Class A and B shares was 179 million. The anticipated interest that was computed by BEL from 2007 to 2012, the 5 years, was $210. So they got 179 projected that in 5 years we shall have earned 200 and added that to have the future value of 390 as a base to compute the monthly capacity charge. I hope I've tried to simplify it and we are following. Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, we established that the projected future value supposed to be under 19% that was used to determine the future value was never subjected to tax. The interest of 210 ought to have been offset by a provisional tax component of 30%. So if you make a projected revenue, it follows as a principle that you must provide for tax. And so you cannot project that I will earn 210 in our economy, use it as a base without accounting, offsetting it for tax at 30%. So we established that the tax component of 30% of $63 million was not provided for. Therefore, the future value is overstated and should have been at 326.9 million US dollars. And that is the future value. If you see the formula, which is the net income, interest 210 minus the provisional tax component 63, which gives you 147. And the 147 is what we add, should have been added to the 179 actual equity contribution to be able to establish the aggregate equity of 326 million US dollars to be used. This is a very important observation. So it is the US dollars 326.9 million US dollars that should have been used to compute the tariff equity repayment return per month of Ujigali capacity payments instead of 383.4 million US dollars. So if the 326.9 had been used as the aggregate equity after providing for the tax provision, the monthly capacity charges should have been 4.7 million US dollars in 2012, 3.7 in 2013, 2.8 million in 2014, and $2.3 million from 2015 onwards, instead of the 5.5 million that was used across the board. Are we together? So we calculated and said, if you had provided for tax, then you would not have overstated your future value on which you used to calculate the monthly payments. And we have broken it down per year. Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, page 15, make matters worse. Ujigali Energy Limited shareholders started redeeming their shares from 2013 up to 2015. So they were shareholders and they started redeeming. Simplify it, redeeming, you removing your what? Taking away your money. So in 2013, they redeemed 70.3 million US dollars. In 2014, 64.2 million US dollars. 2015, 35.3 million US dollars. So in 3 years, the shareholders redeemed out of the 179 they put in, they redeemed 169.
Chair, was that part of the agreement that you can be able to redeem at any one time?
The agreement is silent, but they are investors, and so part of the common best practice is that you can redeem your shares as a shareholder. But we are going to see what the trouble is that with those decisions. So in 3 years, the equity of Ujigali, having removed 169, it stood at 157, which is the 10 plus the other projected interest. Are we together? Following the shareholders exempt the redemption, the computation of the monthly capacity payment should have been based. This is our observation, that following the redemption, the computation of capacity payments should have been based on the remaining equity balances from 2013 to 2015. Because you took away your money and you are continuing to compute as if money is what? Unfortunately, the computations of payments to bear continues to be based on a wrong original equity value of 383. If the computation was to be done, taking into consideration the redemption of shares, as well as the compliance with the other tax provision I mentioned, the resultant capacity payments going forward should have been as summarized in the table. If you look at the table, we have highlighted every year how much should have been the monthly payments in the second last column. So while we are paying them 5.5 million US dollars per month, the committee recomputed what should have been a monthly payment as indicated, 4.7, 3.7 downwards. And you can see when they withdraw their money, the repayment should have reduced as well. The total payments to bear, therefore, from 2012 to 2022, ought to have been US dollars 329.34128 million. Instead, government of Uganda paid to bear monthly amount of $5.5 million. And as a result, it totals 671 million US dollars in 10 years. In 10 years. So in our observation, the wrong calculation resulted in excess payment of 342 million US dollars to Ujigali. Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, based on this calculation, based on that calculation, if we amortize this 30-year period, which is listed in the agreement up to 2042, the government of Uganda would pay bail only up to 881 million US dollars instead of the $2 billion, which is based on the current wrong calculation. That means it would cost the country an additional 1.1 billion US dollars. And as you look at these figures, remember the cost of the what? Of the dam. I go to the impact on the consumer tariff. The critical impact of all this is how it affects the final consumer tariff. The current consumer tariff in Uganda stands at 8.49 cents per kilowatt. This was after the refinancing agreement of July 2018 and the tax exemption given in 2017. However, based on the correct computation, the tariff would be US cents 5.72 after the refinancing of July 2018. and a tax exemption of 2017. The committee observed that even with the corporation tax exemption, even if it was imposed at 30%, with the correct computation, the tariff would still have been 6.55 US cents per kilowatt, which is still lower than the current 8.49 US cents per kilowatt. And we have illustrated the computation there. Because the current capacity payments to bill, if you add return on debt, that formula, interest on debt, the tariff equity return per month, the corporate income tax, which is 0, operation and the other technical charges, 0, operation and maintenance, all this total to 10 million. When you add those, they are resulting in the current tariff of 8.49. Therefore, if we were to sell the power, if power is sold on the current power tariff, and the payment value above, based on the above figures, would be 119, 273, 733 kilowatts. If we change the payment per month, like we have illustrated, the new capacity payment would be 6.8 instead of the 10. And so if you apply the same formula, the 6.8 divided by the kilowatts being produced, you would result in 5.72 US cents per kilowatt. So it just tells you that to reduce power, all that needed to be done is to make the prepayments according to the formula that is correct. If we assume 30%, because in that, if you look at that table where there is CIT, this corporate income tax, it is 0. But if we make a provision for 30% income tax, still than the 8.49. I mean lower, sorry. The recommendation. The committee recommends that Ujigali Energy Limited should refund to the government of Uganda the excess payments of 342 million US dollars for the period of 10 years, plus surcharges. The committee recommends that Ujigali Energy Limited should be held liable for not declaring the provisional component of tax on the purported income, that projected income amounting to $63 million. Uganda Revenue Authority is directed to recover all the taxes from bail prior to the exemption. The committee also recommends that ELA, going forward, this is the Electricity Regulatory Authority, should compute capacity payments as per the adjusted equity of 157 million US dollars after 2015, following the share redemption by the shareholders. The IGG should take interest into the operations of ERA in the amortization of the return on equity on Ujigali and establish the capable officers who amortized this computation based on a wrong return of equity. Government of Uganda should renegotiate the agreement with Ujigali Energy Limited. We also recommend that the government should institute a strong monitoring team to ensure the integrity of the facility until its handover. Members, the government of Uganda is supposed to be earning
equity according to the agreement after 30 years when the investors have been paid off. So at that point, they will be handed over the what? The dam. So the condition of the dam at that point is important. If it is completely exhausted, and this one we established in Kenya, that at the time of handover, you might find you need to put in more money. So the government must have a mechanism to continue monitoring the integrity of the facility. We also recommend that the IGG should investigate the $15 million expensed through UETCL to establish how and where and whether the money was spent. And we recommend that the Auditor General should audit the application of the $15 million because it is in the agreement, but it was never expensed. I got terms of reference number 2 and 3, which we combine. And this combined to establish a cost benefit and value for money of the historical income tax exemption on Ujagari and assess its impact on the tax, the impact of the tax waiver on energy tariff. The committee The committee established that the Auditor General undertook a special audit on Ujagari Energy Limited in 2014 on a special request by government to audit the tariff project costs regulated by ERA. The procedures performed during the audit were thoroughly to establish whether the tariff project costs reported as 879 million were reflective of the actual cost of the project.
Isn't it 875?
875.11 million US dollars, whether they were reflective of the actual cost of the project, whether they prudently incurred following the original designs, and whether the costs were reflective of the value for money. The audit revealed 756.86 million as the final tariff project cost, and that this was prudently incurred as per the original design. However, the project's price appeared high compared to other hydropower projects in terms of the overall project costs, electromechanical costs, and turbine and transformer cost. The high cost was attributed to the fact that Bell borrowed $590.7 million, which included a high debt financing costs such as interest during construction of $111.6 million and lenders administrative costs of $23.7 million US dollars. Additionally, there was interest to be paid after the commercial operations debt of $334.5 million US dollars, equivalent to 1.2 billion. The audit revealed that Ujagari Energy Limited made an insurance loss of $163,000 US dollars, resulting from lost equipment of Alstom, who was a subcontractor of Sarini, and that the 70% of that cost should have been met by the contractor, but was instead charged as part of the tariff project costs. The committee established that the license issued by ERA and the power purchase agreements defines that the bare capacity price should include the following and their respective percentage contribution. So the capacity payments basically include the debt repayment, interest on debt, return on equity, corporate income tax, other taxes, operations and maintenance costs of the power plant, miscellaneous charges, and the government equity repayment. But remember, out of these components, the government equity repayment is 0, and the corporate income tax is 0. So if you look at that chart, you will realize that the biggest cost driver, which accounts 52%, is the return on equity. And that is as a result of the other 19% that were negotiated. The total cost as indicated in the graph is 129.3 million per annum. Under Section 21 of the Income Tax Act, the Parliament of Uganda approved a 5-year corporate income tax in July 2017. The exemption was on the income earned by Bell operating the Ujigali hydroelectric power plant. According to URA, the income tax exemption period commencing 2018 to 2021, Bell declared exempt income, resulting in potential corporate income tax for gone of 388.7 billion. So the 5 years, according to URA, the corporate income tax for gone was 388 billion. They had paid, this money would have gone to the consolidated fund. And the table is there highlighted. The waiver of the corporate income tax to bear was one of the interventions carried out by the government to reduce the generation tariff payable to bear, and by extension, purpose was to reduce the end user tariff. The cost driver, as indicated, includes debt, return on equity, etc., including tax. Therefore, tax is just one component of the total cost. The Minister of Energy demonstrated the advantages of a waiver. And as you can see, the Minister of Energy highlighted that before the waiver, the cost was 13.83. And after the waiver, it went down to 10.62 before the refinancing. The Minister of Energy informed the committee that the tariff of Ujigali in 2018 was 13.83 US cents per kilowatt, and it was one of the most significant contributors to the high levelized tariff. This was set to increase US cents 14.23 in 2022. And you remember that was one of the justifications given for us to extend the tax waiver, that if we don't, the tariff is going to increase. Allow me to go to the interest of time. I go to the observation. That is page 23. The committee observed that even with the government intervention of the tax waiver on bail, the operations and refinancing of Ujigali hydropower plant, the current tariff of US cents 8.3 is still over and above the target of US cents 5 per kilowatt. Remember, the government has been saying the target should be 5. So the corporate income tax reduced by 3.2. Then the refinancing reduced it further, but it remained at 8.3, which is much higher than the target. So it remains costly to domestic consumers, and it is deterring industrial consumers' accelerated growth and competitiveness. Electricity is a major fact of production. Second observation, in the audited accounts of BEL, the operating revenue consists of taxes, operations, maintenance costs, and miscellaneous charges. These were estimated and included in the capacity payment charge and were excessive, which led to operating revenue. This in effect would have been a refund to government of Uganda as an excess payment vis-a-vis actual. Therefore, the corporation tax purported to be on this revenue is taxing government money, which should not have been the case if the refund was done. The significant cost driver is the uncapped stroke unregulated dividend payouts to BEL shareholders. The retained earnings and an income to BEL should have been subjected to tax, and the effect would be net of tax instead of the gross payments. Therefore, the CIT, which is the corporate income tax in the formula, should apply to the earnings resulting from 19%. So if you are earning 19%, then the corporate income tax should have been applied. We observed that the National Audit Act of 2008 was not complied with, as the Auditor General was supposed to audit the expenses of BEL by virtue of government of Uganda being a shareholder. You read the act, because government has invested, it's a shareholder, and the Auditor General should be auditing. Observation number 5, electricity utilities are monopolies, and it is paramount that the regulator protects the interests of the end user customers with little or no alternative for electricity. The government can achieve this by capping the return on equity, the determination of the utilities total revenue requirement, which represents the amount of money the utility must collect to cover its costs and make reasonable profits, must be capped to keep the final tariff cost affordable by the end user. If Parliament does not approve the extension of the corporate income tax, Ujigali Energy Limited names will incorporate and appropriate amounts in the tariff following the formula. So with or without the exemption, Ujigali Energy Limited will remain in the same economic position in that if it paid out corporate income tax, it would still recover the money expensed on CIT by charging the higher tariff. We also observed that the hydro plants are temperamental because they depend on nature and natural weather. The higher the rain, the more generation. This helps determine the average capacity utilization factor of a power dam over its lifetime during operation. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development has never undertaken any feasibility study to estimate the agreed utilization factor to be incorporated at the signing of PP of the power purchase agreement. Establishing the actual average utilization factor determines its impact on the final tariff. The higher the utilization factor beyond what was agreed upon, the lower the tariff. Ujigali Energy Limited declared to the committee that whether or not they have a surplus or deficit of operation and maintenance costs, miscellaneous charges and other taxes, which would cause a refund. Ujigali Energy Limited has never declared whether or not they have had a surplus or deficit of operation and maintenance costs and other charges. Because if they had a surplus, then the charges within the formula would be lower and it will result in a refund to government. We also observed that even with the government intervention of the tax
other miscellaneous charges and taxes.
yes. Even with the government intervention, the tax waiver on Ujigali Energy Limited and the refinancing of Ujigali hydropower. The current tariff of US cents 8.3 is still over and above the target of 5.5 cents US cents per kilowatt. The capacity charge of 8.3 remains costly and it is deterring consumers and industrial consumers access to growth and competitiveness. Recommendations. The committee recommends that the Auditor General should audit Ujigali Energy Limited as per the National Audit Act, given that government of Uganda is a shareholder in the project. Specifically, the committee strongly recommends that the Auditor General should undertake a value for money audit on Ujigali to establish the actual effects of the cost drivers, because all these charges we have talked about, they are assumed and estimated. And if there is no audit by government, this becomes a problem. And I think colleagues will appreciate that even as we go into the oil sector, this is the biggest problem we are going to be having. You have someone inflating costs and is not being audited, establish the actual costs. The committee recommends that through the Ministry of Energy.
Maybe to members, under the National Audit Act 2008, all institutions that get money from government, from consolidated fund, must be audited. So this is what Chair is saying, that under that act, the audit has never taken place, and they are recommending that there should be an audit. All these people you're giving money, be it local, be it who, all those people are subject to audit. Okay? I was just making a clarification. You will debate. Mama, you will debate.
Speaker, I'm just giving the presenter a point of consideration. When the government is not part of governance, you cannot.
Now you're going to come on that debate. The question is, why are we in class C, not A? And yet our contribution is higher than what they have.
The second recommendation under this TOR is that through the Ministry of Energy, government of Uganda should initiate processes to renegotiate the power purchase agreements with Ujigali Energy Limited.
Honorable members, those who want to go away, next week I want all of you in the house for the famous law. I want all of you in the house. And whoever doesn't come, I will go to your constituents and say this one. No, but we are talking about the generational aspect, our morals, our values. And I want to thank the risks. We don't mind about the risks. Let's first protect our children. If your risk is that we shall not get money, can't we work for our money? The only thing we have to do is to make sure we reduce on corruption and we use what we have within. So, go ahead.
Through the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, government should initiate processes to renegotiate the power purchase agreements with Ujigali Energy Limited, provide for a capped return on investment and a utilization factor to reduce the tariff costs before deciding on the extension of the waiver. We also recommend that from our findings in TOR1, the corporate income tax waiver should have had an impact of lowering the tariff 5.72 US cents per kilowatt if the capacity payments computation was done using the correct tariff equity repayment return. Therefore, what we demonstrated is that with the corporate income tax waiver, the tariff would have gone down to 6.6 US cents per kilowatt. With the exemption, it should have gone down to 5.72. So consideration of the CIT waiver should only be made after the refund of excess payments by bearer and the completion of renegotiations. Terms of reference number 4, which was to inquire into the merits, and this is the last one, the merits of the loan restructuring and its impact on the country. The loan restructuring of Ujigali Energy Limited project arose from the matter of high electricity costs raised by His Excellency the President of Uganda at the 28th Summit of the Heads of State and Governments of the African Union on 30th of January 2017. And we examined even correspondences from the President of the high power costs. The high electricity costs prompted assurances from the President of the African Development Bank support Uganda's efforts towards providing affordable electricity at that summit. Subsequently, the President directed the ministries in charge of energy and finance to explore measures to reduce power tariffs to US cents per kilowatt. The ministries identified the cost of Ujagali's project debt, exacerbated by its short-term tenure of 16 years from the start of construction, and the corporate income tax to be applied effective 2017, to be the critical drivers for a high tariff costs. After negotiations, we identified the financiers. There no objection for the appointment of ADB and International Finance Corporation, IFC, as joint mandated lead arrangers for the proposed refinancing with Stanbic Bank as a transaction advisor was received on 23rd February 2017. The Ministries of Finance and Energy presented 5 financing proposals to the Cabinet, and the Cabinet discussed and noted the budgetary requirements for refinancing, for reducing the end user power price to US cents 7.1 during the financial year 2017 to 2023. The Cabinet rejected the proposal to reduce the end user power price paid by all industrial consumers to 5 US cents per kilowatt through subsidy. They rejected that we cannot reduce power through subsidies, and approved the renegotiation of the terms of the ADB proposal for the Ujigali project refinancing as follows. To refinance with $504.7 million US of the existing Ujigali project, replacing the current project lenders with new investors. They also agreed that the African Development Bank, together with other government finance institutions, make a provision of guarantee for repayment of the new project lenders, and an interest rate of 6.25 per annum was agreed. They also agreed that the new debt service reserve account requirement amounting to 26.17 million US dollars, that the new loan tenure 15 years from July 2017 to June 2032. So extend the loan up to 2032. And of course, the issuance fees totaling 38.07 million US dollars These were to be paid up front from the loan amount. So they give you the money, but they remove the issuance fees of 38 million. And of course, they also agreed that the existing Ujigali project loan cancellation with the loan breakage penalty cost of $9 million. In a bid to reduce the power tariffs, in 2018, the Minister of Finance informed the committee that the government of Uganda, through the lead arrangers IFC and the FDB, refinanced the projects through a loan to the tune of $444.3 million repayable over 14 years, ending November 2032. We have put a table that highlights the approved amount and what was disbursed and the loan balances. It is important to note that whereas the approved loan was 444.3 million, the amount disbursed was 403.4 million. The difference of 40.8 million US dollars will not be accounted for. If it is assumed that the 38.02 million was paid as issuance fees, to be the difference, then the discrepancy of $2.83 million.
Is it issuance or insurance fees? Because when a loan is given, there is insurance fee, there is commitment fees. It could have been maybe insurance.
This is issuance fees. It is paid upfront. Issuance. So still we established that there is a discrepancy of 2.83 million that still cannot be accounted for. And we have provided the tables of the loan status, table 12 and table 13. Members can look at it. According to the Ministry of Energy, the government of Uganda achieved financial closure for the debt refinancing of the project, in addition to the waiver, and the two components have had a consolidated effect of reducing the tariff by US cents 5.34. So remember, before the tax waiver, it was 13. After the refinancing, it went down to 8.49. The ministry attributed the high tariff costs to the higher payments required to finance the initial loans in the short term. Therefore, the refinancing was intended to lower the tariff costs. Following the debt refinancing and CIT waiver, the Ministry of Energy and Finance reported that the average monthly capacity payments to BEL would reduce from US dollars 13 million in 2018 to 10 in 2021, translating to what they called monthly savings. Really, these are not savings, but cash flow savings of $2.2 million. The electricity tariff reduced from an average of 13.83 to an average of 8.49 US cents per kilowatt, translating to 38.6 reduction, representing approximately 17% reduction, which is equivalent to US cents 5.34 per kilowatt. The committee observed that the refinancing increased the debt from the outstanding loan of 423 million at the time of refinancing to 678, an increase of 37%, which meant that the government would lose an additional 255 million US dollars as a result of refinancing. And this is supposed to be paid by 2032. So if government was to fulfill the earlier timeline of 2023, the government would save 255 million US dollars. The second observation, the refinancing of Ujigali hydropower plant using debt is becoming more expensive to the government because there is an extra cost of interest and lenders financing charges, all of which must be recovered through the tariff. So whatever costs that have to be made the additional financing to the tune of 444 million US dollars attracted issuance fees, right, Honorable Speaker, what you are asking, of $38 million, which occasioned a 9.4% loss on the principal amount compared to an average of 1% of the principal fee for processing a loan. So our loan was processed with issuance fee of 38 million US dollars. That's around 9.4%. When we compare with the average loan processing fees, before refinancing, government had a running loan balance of 423 million US dollars. After the refinancing of US dollars 444 million, it's not 21 million US dollars cost on the borrowing. If the 38 million US dollars were used to offset part of the loan, government would have been relieved of some significant amount from the principal. We further observed that the government of Uganda was to earn a return on its investment of the $20 million by 2032 after the repayment of debt. But the project refinancing extended the repayment period from 2018 to 2032. Therefore, by implication, the extension implies that the government of Uganda will earn its return on investment when the capital asset, the capital invested in the project has depreciated over the years and may require significant investment in rehabilitation to maintain the production capacity. So by the time the repayment is over, we will have to reinvest in the asset. The recommendations that the government of Uganda should buy out a percentage of the debt to lower the tariff costs in the long term. Additionally, financing projects such as Ujigali energy power through internally generated sources like equity would be cheaper. Therefore, government should consider listing the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited, listing on a stock exchange to solicit capital from the public so that we can buy out this loan. Remember, people are earning at 19%. If you have invested or we have seen the interest being declared by NSF and the treasury bonds, it is still much lower. So if UEGCL was channeling these repayments to investors, local investors, they can easily enlist equity to pay off this loan and we stop the hemorrhage. The Ministry of Finance should account for the 2.3 from 83 million amount that we could not understand or could not be traced. Para 5, which is to examine the public-private partnership agreement and ascertain all parties' compliance with the terms of the agreement. The article on taxation, Article 8, And Schedule 1 to that agreement provides for the minimum functional specification for the contracted capacity of the 250. So the agreement set the target of 250 megawatts. That's the contracted amount to be produced by Ujigali. The agreement further stipulates that the power station shall be capable of delivering the contracted capacity, that's the 250 megawatts, at the normal hydraulic condition with a flow through the 5 turbines that does not exceed 1,372 cubic meters per second. The committee was informed that only 160 megawatts of power is being loaded into the national grid by Ujigali. This is a violation of the terms of the power purchase agreement. From the field visit to Ujigali power plant, the committee was informed that the production is determined by the demand by UETCL, which normally averages around 160 megawatts. So you have a contracted capacity of 250, but they said they only produce around 160, according to the demand from UETCL. The observation, the committee observes that whereas the dam has the potential to produce at the maximum capacity, the actual production is not proportional to the capital investment. It's like buying a bus and you drive it with your wife every day to come to work. The dam has the potential to produce at a maximum capacity, but the actual production is not proportional to the capital investment. As such, the dam is underutilized, yet the demand for power in the country is very high. So we recommend that UETCL should put in place strategies to ensure to increase power supply so as to meet the growing demand. I need also to add here that if the contracted capacity is 250, the other costs that are variables that go into producing 250, which are estimated, but you produce at 160, that means those costs are overstated. And that's why we recommended the value for money audit, because they are assumed every year. 5.4.2, fixing corporate income tax. Under item 4.5 of Annex D of the Power Purchase Agreement, the parties agreed and undertook to agree on a reasonable estimate of the company's income tax payable by the company during each agreement year. This, according to the agreement, should be agreed upon by the parties not later than 1 month before the start of each agreement year, and shall be the basis of the capacity payment for that agreement year. There is no evidence provided to the committee as to when the parties ever agreed on the reasonable income tax payable by the company. This was a violation of the power purchase agreement. The other component we considered under the compliance provision, POR, is the insurance requirement. The Article 9 of Section 9.1 of the implementation agreement provides for the insurance. If the company, it requires that the company to maintain specific policies and undertake insurance from financially strong and national or international reputable insurance companies in accordance with the power purchase agreement. According to the report of the Auditor General, the Ujigali Energy Limited made an insurance loss of $163,000 US when it paid out the 753.7 $753,759 for the loss of equipment of Alstom. This was a company contracted by Salini that was on transit to the site. Despite the fact that there was an insurance claim and a subsequent compensation to bail of $695,000 he still suffered a loss approximately to $163,063. That should have been incurred by the contractor who was required to insure the items on transit. But Ujigali consequently included the 70% of the loss in the tariff project costs, which was indeed irregular and a violation of the agreement. We recommend that BEL should refund government of Uganda the wrongly claimed insurance costs with interest. Conclusion. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the committee, and I want to thank the committee members that worked tirelessly on this report. Honorable Mafabi, Honorable Kalim, Honorable Mara, Honorable Roy Katari, Honorable Faith Nakut, and Honorable Mwanga Chibumbi, and Honorable Taiwa. As I conclude that the committee set out to investigate Ujigali tax waiver and it believes that it has done so. This report is based on our analysis of the agreements between government of Uganda, the Ujigali Energy Limited, and the prevailing power tariffs. The hemorrhage and repatriation of resources from Uganda have been modernized through treaties and memorandums of understanding. Investors, represented by sophisticated lawyers, impose misery terms on government and employ tax dodgers to breed profits from the dispute situations in which government found itself then. Project, the government of Uganda was in a poor bargaining position. It did not have the resources to fund the project, and the country could not afford any further delays. The committee is of the opinion that government should intentionally protect the public interest and always take an active lead role in monitoring strategic and significant projects such as Ujigali Energy Limited, regardless of the circumstance. At that time, we were in power blackouts, we were in a low rating, but we have come of age. The hemorrhage cannot continue. During the investigations, it was unclear who was ultimately responsible for monitoring the activities of Ujigali. As the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development assumed some roles, while Minister of Finance also had responsibility. In contrast, others were assumed by UETCL as the executor of the power purchase agreement. Therefore, the committee strongly calls upon Parliament to compel government of Uganda to renegotiate the Ujigali Energy Limited power purchase agreement terms before deciding on the issue of the tax. This is in addition to recovery of all excess payments and the application of proper figures in the calculation of the capacity payments going forward. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I beg to move.
Thank you so much, Chairman, and thank you for a very good report. And you've heard from the chairman, from the recommendations, from the observations. And if you look at the recommendations that have been made, the observations, the nature of our shareholding by government of Uganda, that is what Honorable Cecilia was talking about. We are at type C, where we don't have any voting rights, and that should be responded to by Attorney General. When you look at the erroneous computation of payments to Ujigali Energy Limited, which is $342 million, that one should also be handled. And I would request that Auditor General does a forensic audit to determine these figures. The figures have never been determined by Auditor General. Now that we have leading figures from our committee, and we are not mandated to do that. So we need to subject the figures that we have to a forensic audit by Auditor General and give and own the figures themselves, because they've never reported anything on this. The ineffectiveness of the tax waiver, which is driving down the tariffs. We are talking about tariff of 5. Now the tariff is at 8.3. So which is which? The unregulated payment of dividends. We've never received any dividends as a country. You cannot have no return on investment. How do you do business like that? For you to enter into business, there must be a return on investment. And this one is, we are just giving it out like that. And then we have Attorney General, we need to find out what is going on with that before I allow people to debate.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
The Minister of Energy is not here, but most of the things that we are discussing are from the agreement.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, and honorable colleagues, like the Speaker stated, the Minister of Energy is not here. They are attending a nuclear conference in Munyonyo, and they send their apologies. First of all, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I would like to thank the committee for the report that has been presented. The work has been tremendous. The report generally points out challenges both in the structure of the agreement and the implementation of the project. The process, the proposals to audit are most welcome. The proposals to be on top of the processes that are ongoing in Ujigali is most welcome, and government indeed receives the report well and does not have any objection to carrying out the said audits. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, the issue is that the agreement, as the committee clearly points out, was not necessarily favorable because of the circumstances that obtained at the time. However, that should not be a reason for us to continue to, because you need to rethink your position. Is this working for me? And like the committee has pointed out, maybe when we refinanced, it was not probably the best option, and that is what we need to go back as government and look at. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, there are quite a number of figures and formulas that have been set out in this document. I think government needs to sit down, understand the figures, first of all, and establish that the figures are the correct one, and the wrong formula was used to compute the payments that are supposed to be made to Ujigali. Every action necessary to be taken will be taken to recover what is rightfully due to government. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, we request that you allow the government to receive this report, receive it, and go back and act on it. Not go back to rethink it, but act on it, because if the committee says renegotiate, I don't have a problem with that. We go back and renegotiate, and the question is we need to figure out the terms that were unfavorable, the figures that are wrong, and then come back to Parliament with a report. I beg to submit.
There is a clarification Honorable Mbabazi wants.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. The clarification I'm seeking from the Attorney General is whether these agreements do have midterm review, or we just make an open agreement and just refinance after the final. Thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, this particular agreement did not have a midterm review clause.
It is up to 2042.
However, like
Yes.
like the committee has correctly pointed out, this is an investment. And you look at the investment like what was done before, where you go back into refinancing. There are those terms which are the business that the company is doing is to recover money. So if you can make that earlier, you can get out of it. So whether you have a midterm review or not, there are clauses that you can use to try and renegotiate. The renegotiation, right, Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, when a person has an agreement, the obligation of government is to meet the terms of that agreement. To renegotiate the terms of the agreement is to make a good faith effort to look at the terms and look at the other party and say, this clause is unfavorable. And in all honesty, we need to do this. But if it is an agreement, you're obligated to follow through with it.
Yes, Lee.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what we see and has been presented in this report, clear aggressive tax planning by multinationals hidden in a very complex structures that seek to take advantage of our country. The Attorney General is indicating to the country that government would welcome an idea to renegotiate the contracts. And if you look at a number of proposals being made here, actual parliament may be involved in some of the cases. So when you talk about government, who are you exactly referring to? Because there are so many recommendations being made here and you are addressing yourself to government. Who are you looking at in government? I think this time let us be specific so that we can follow actions.
Right, Honorable Speaker, the business of running government is a shared responsibility, as I always say. For example, if we wanted to get a concessional loan to reorganize this, there's no way we can avoid parliament. If we are going to commit public funds in any way, you cannot avoid parliament. So it's a shared responsibility. But what we speak of now is that parliament has done its part, has pointed out the areas that they think the executive needs to look at. And we are saying, let us go back as the executive, look at these figures, and like the Right Honorable Speaker, use the technical persons that we have, like the auditors, to ensure that we have the figures correct, and then come back and report back and say, this is what we intend to do, so we can go along together and find a common. Right now, Right Honorable Speaker, we are here as the executive asking Parliament to allow a tax waiver. And Parliament is saying, no, we need you to do this. So we need to go back and then come back to Parliament and say, this is what we think we need to do in order to save this whole situation for all of us as a country.
Thank you, Matovo.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. The Attorney General has somehow explained the take of the executive. But looking at this agreement, it is the AG to advise government. How come all this was done without their input? And another thing.
One thing I need to clear, this agreement was not sanctioned by Kiriowa Kiwanuka. Honorable Kiriowa Kiwanuka.
Right, Honorable.
And he's making a commitment that they are going to make a review of what is in the agreement.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Perhaps there are documentation to this effect that you could have read already. And secondly, when you look at corporate income tax, which other taxes were waived? We need to get to ascertain all that so that we make a good recovery of the same. And lastly, right Honorable Speaker, we very much note that the impact of electricity in the country, how it affects manufacturing, household, and small-scale businesses. In lieu of the charges that have been portrayed by the contractors, is there any specific way we can make a recovery of all those costs and lower the cost towards the local consumers? I thank you.
Thank you, Santa.
Yeah, thank you so much, Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, we have been having a serious problem with electricity in this country. And allow me thank the committee for coming up with this very good report. Attorney General, you have just been in office for 2 years and you are making a commitment. But I would like to urge that when you go back, right now, your colleagues are not here, and I don't think that you are going to do this work alone. You will need the technical people who should help you to look at the technical aspect of all this. So, Madam Speaker, I wanted to ask that when the Attorney General should give us the commitment when he is coming back to Parliament, because he seems to mean very well. And I want to thank you for that. You are very active on Parliament, but you cannot work alone. Thank you so much.
Honorable Attorney General, when do we expect an action as per Rule 220?
Right, Honorable Speaker, I did have a long conversation with Honorable Kasai last night about this particular report, and I am here with his full knowledge that I am making this undertaking. Right, Honorable Speaker, when we spoke with Honorable Okasai, we did have a conversation and said, even if we do not have a complete answer within 3 months, we should come back and keep Parliament appraised on where we are at every stage of the way. So we will be coming back to the House in 3 months to tell you where we are, even if we have not completed. Right, Honorable Speaker,
Honorable members, we are talking about renegotiating an agreement. That's one. But what is saying, you will be coming to update the House progressively on what has been done. I am also going to give Auditor General 2 months to come up with a forensic audit. We need a forensic audit. Honorable Nathan Nandala, Chairman of BCU, you're a member of the committee. You want to give us information?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Attorney General is very good what he's saying. But Madam Speaker, the moment an agreement you default on one clause, that agreement becomes null and void. In the agreement, we never agreed. First of all, there have been 6 amendments. The amendments was in respect in favor of Ujigali. Now we're also going, we say we want also to amend. There's nothing wrong with that. But the worst one, they withdrew money from the company, which is not allowed as per the agreement.
Nathan, repeat what you said.
Madam Speaker, the chair,
the problem you're making a noise, you're making me not to hear.
Madam Speaker, first, that agreement has been amended many times. And the amendments have been always being made in favor of Ujigali. It is important that we're also going and say, we want also to make an amendment now on also favor. Now, the first one which I'm raising is again, which has a big point, is that the moment you default in one clause, yeah, you default, that means that agreement becomes a breach. That's the default. It becomes null and what? Void. And that's why I'm telling the Attorney General that in the agreement, there was no section which allowed the redemption of what? The capital. Now, because if we had retained the money, that means we will not even have got borrow more what? Money. Now, because the other shareholders used, by the way, even the money we're borrowing might be their own money, we're borrowing, they put it as a loan from the other side, and we borrow and pay them first for 19% and on interest. So now we're saying, since you redeemed the money, it meant you breached the what? The agreement. Now we have come that this agreement does not subsist.
AG. They want
Right, Honorable
everything
Speaker,
to be answered.
we did interact with the committee and many of these things were raised. And at the time, we decided not to do anything and just wait for the committee to complete its work. I cannot stand here, Right Honorable Speaker, and tell you that an entity is in breach and the agreement is null and void. What we are requesting is you allow us, because he says it's a breach, but not every breach leads to a contract becoming null and void. Some are voidable, others are void. So we need to look at it from that angle. But he points out a fundamental issue, which we are definitely going to be addressing when we are looking at it. And Right Honorable Speaker, like you said, we are going to have to depend on the technical people. And thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for saying you'll have the Auditor General do the work within 2 months. There is no way we can make any action before the technical people, especially the auditor who is carrying out the audit on the numbers. Even if it is to demand for money, we must know exactly how much money is being demanded. So we request that that instruction be given the Auditor General, which will help us to move this process along. Thank you.
Clerk should write to Auditor General today and ask them to do a forensic audit and report back within 2 months on the audit, on one, the amounts that are supposed to be refunded, how much contribution, how much we are supposed to get as dividends, patience.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My concern was towards Attorney General. We need to know how many agreements we have in this country that don't have midterm reviews so that we can know what to do with these agreements. Because when we look at Ujigali, we are in a total mess. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Sevamala.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I thank the committee and the composition of the brains that have come up with this report. Indeed, Right Honorable Speaker, these people, it was a very good committee. Right Honorable Speaker, I would want to point out that it is not only Ujigali that we are suffering with dimmed energy. Honorable colleagues, we are paying 90 extra megawatts. They brought us, actually, in this budget, I think we have over 100 billion to pay dimmed energy. That is power that we are not utilizing. And this is not only for Ujigali. Right Honorable Speaker, let's not wait for a situation where Ujigali comes to ask for a tax waiver, that we audit the rest. When you look at Karuma, look at Isimba, look at all these other dams, we are paying dimmed energy that we are not using. We should come up with a good negotiation on how we come up with a price for dimmed energy.
Thank you. Enos. Eddie.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I have so many questions. First, before I make my statements on this, I wanted to seek clarification from the Attorney General. If he can share with us the terms on which we can reverse these contracts, or specifically these contracts, before we look at renegotiation, or before you give us time to think, because the findings of the committee under TOR1 clearly tell us that there was a lot of breach in terms of understatements of returns, understating taxes and all that. So what has really challenged me, and I actually wanted to seek clarification from Honorable Nanda, your conclusion does not speak to findings. Your conclusion is telling us renegotiate. But then your findings are clearly telling us that there was a lot of breach, including actually, if I don't know whether it was intentional. If it was intentional, to me it was fraud.
Is it a conclusion in the report?
Yes. The conclusion in the report, Madam, is talking about renegotiating.
Yes.
And with a view of extending the tax exemption. From page 15, page 18. Are telling us that the team that has been running the contract at Ujigali has been withdrawing money for the last 10 years. They're also telling us that they understated taxes, or they showed that they should not be paying taxes to a tune of 63 million US dollars. They're also talking about the losses on insurance, I think on page 25. But when they come to the conclusion, they are saying we renegotiate. Really, finding all these misstatements.
You know, the renegotiation is because we are in an agreement.
Which is okay, Madam Speaker. I agree with you. But before we think of renegotiation, I want the Honorable Attorney General to give us terms on which we can change or on which we can terminate this contract. Because when you look at terms of reference and findings from these gentlemen, clearly there was something wrong for the last 10 years, Madam Speaker. If we say we give them 2 months to audit, that audit has been done by this simple team, which is not actually not simple, but
The role, that is not our role as members of parliament. We
Okay,
do
fine.
an oversight, we do not audit.
Thank you for the guidance, Madam.
And the figures these people have got, it is the first time we are getting those figures.
Thank you so much.
Auditor General itself has never gotten those figures. And that's why we are saying we need an Auditor General to verify. It is the only Auditor General that is mandated to audit under the National Audit.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for that guidance. Now, my conclusion comes to this, that then we move by allowing the Auditor General to first verify the figures the team has given us. Once we can confirm that actually what has been reported in this report is actually true, then we can think of termination or renegotiation. But even now, even if we said we negotiate, we terminate, we may not have the actual facts. So I suggest we deal with
Honorable members will adopt the report and then actions are taken. Actually, I wish you could, whoever is speaking, because this report is self-explanatory.
Motion, right, honorable, motion.
Honorable members, sit. What we need to do, we need to bring amendments. This report is self-explanatory. The person who was presenting was like teaching. He was lecturing actually. So whoever does not even know anything about figures understood. So why don't we have amendments to the resolution? I mean to the recommendations. Yes.
Thank you, right, honorable speaker. You had picked.
I had given him.
Thank you, right, honorable speaker. And indeed, I want to thank the committee for the very elaborate
There is a
presentation.
procedural matter.
Right, honorable speaker, I think you are right to say you have already ruled on this, that we adopt the report as we did with NSSF, and then we move one by one. So can we now move from and move logically? That's what I was trying to propose.
Okay.
Or we
okay.
can move from anywhere. So can you
No
guide
pro-
us, right, honorable
No
speaker?
problem. We are going to do that. Let me hear from.
Right, honorable speaker, basing on that, I beg to move that we adopt this report because the way it was presented, we don't want really to dilute it so much because really the committee did a very good job. Looking at the figures, it was a very technical report that our input here would also actually require us to go and look at exactly what they did. I now move a motion that the report be adopted with the recommendations therein.
Hajat,
Thank you so much, right, honorable speaker.
it doesn't help you making noise because we are going to adopt.
Right.
Whether you make noise or not, we are going to adopt the report. All you need to do is bring your amendment to the recommendations.
Thank you so much, right, honorable speaker. First of all, as a matter of correction, on page 19, well, the figure was written 1.2 trillion. The reader read 1.2 billion. I think that can be corrected as a matter of record. I have an amendment on resolution number 7, I think on term TOR2, the second one, that talks about the 90 US million that was loaned to bail. And it has been said that out of 90, they received 75, and the 15 was taken to UECTL. The recommendation there is that the IGG should take over the investigation. My take is that the minister considered that actually instead of 90, they gave them 75. I don't see a matter that is for the IGG to investigate in that case.
It should be Auditor General.
Yes, that's the point I'm bringing. Instead, the responsible officer should take responsibility, but the Auditor General investigates the effect of the 15, whether actually it went to UETCL. It may not even have gone there. But the person that misappropriated this money and took it to a different entity where it was not supposed to go should take responsibility, should be held responsible for that. And then the Auditor General investigates the 15 million US dollars. Thank you.
Those in favor of that amendment say and the contrary. Let's have it. Stand up if it is an amendment. Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker, the Attorney General asked for 3 months. And my proposal was for him to agree that we do it within 2 months, for him to come back here, so that it runs in tandem with the time that you are giving for Auditor General. And I know there are many issues that people want to raise, but it's good that we get all that information, and we shall have a proper debate when he comes back. But my proposal is for 2 months.
The Auditor General is for 2 months.
2 months, then the Attorney General also should come.
But he has to act on the figures that are brought by Auditor General. You are an auditor. I thought that you knew that.
I'm just trying to be mindful about the end of this year, because I thought it would wind up by 30th of June, we should be done. So something like.
So on which figures is he going to rely on?
Because, Right Honorable Speaker.
I am asking you, is going to rely on which figures?
The auditor's figures are the figures it's going to rely on. But
now, if we have given them 2 months.
Okay, I think let me say much obliged, because I wanted to debate out myself, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you.
You did not be the room to speak.
Amendment.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. The first amendment I would like to propose regards the regulatory bodies. From the report, you see that the power tariffs and also the declaration were fraudulent a bit. So the Electricity Regulatory Authority, even the Insurance Regulatory Authority, and URA, in addition to the corporation tax that they have evaded, should also look at the capital gains tax from the dividends that they were able to draw away from that. That's the first amendment. The second one is that the Ministry of Finance should also review those agreements. If I had the chairman mention the double tax agreement, that some of the problems are as a result the double tax agreement that we have made. So out of those 11 agreements, the Ministry of Finance should be directed to review the double tax agreements so that it forms in line with our vision.
The amendment, is that okay? Pardon? On the same amendment?
Yeah, Madam Speaker, Jonathan raises a capital gains tax. Capital gains tax cannot be on dividend. Capital gains tax will be on redemption. Yeah, but dividends will be subjected to withholding tax. So that's the only amendment I wanted to make for him. If Jonathan agrees. Jonathan, do you agree?
Yes. Madam Speaker, thank you very much. That's exactly what I meant. And I
Those
agree.
in favor say on the contrary, nay. We adopt that. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I have come for amendment. But before I make the amendment, allow me to thank you as the leader of this institution in the 10th Parliament. In 11th Parliament, Madam Speaker, 11th Parliament has shown that we are really pro-poor, pro-people of Uganda, and we are here to unearth the dirt, even when it was made the time before we came. Thank you, Madam. Madam Speaker, I also want to thank the committee for having ably brought up a report that communicates, because we have had many committees before. But Madam Speaker, thank you for selecting a good team to this effect. Madam Speaker, Professor Lumumba said that when you give a duty to hyenas to take care of the goats, you may not find even any goat. I think there is a need to look at the people who are taking charge of our investments. Because I want to thank the Attorney General, Madam Speaker. He is very candid and open. But Madam Speaker, there is an Attorney General in this house before him who only took Parliament to be advisory. And I want to thank you for being appreciating the work of Parliament. But Madam Speaker, the people responsible for these losses, the amendment I want to make is that we need to see them, because they fleeced Ugandans. If they are found to be culpable, they should be brought to book. We should not only treat figures, we should also interrogate the intention, the motivation behind the actions these people made. Because if we continue making recommendations, then we move forward, we make a review of the agreements, other people are going to make mistakes.
Okay, give us.
And Madam Speaker, I want to remind you, I was with you in 10th Parliament. How I wish Honorable Bahati was here. How I wish Honorable Bahati was here, such that when we are debating these messes in Ujigali, he could be taking a note as a Christian. We need to make sure that our people, the people who are taking charge of our investments, should really be careful. And I want to thank you, Madam Speaker. Let's bring these people, and then we get to know who did this. Who did this? We affect that one to the effect that Ugandans can even at least have that remorse of saying our power.
Give me amendments. Okay. John Faith.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I really want to appreciate the committee for the good work, detailed and specific to the points. Right Honorable Speaker, the report demonstrates the loss that the country has gone through at a time when, as a country, we are talking about being indebted 78 trillion being in debt. So in view of all that, where was our government in terms of governance?
What are you amending?
That the government should reassert itself to be into the governance system of this project, Ujigali, because it is nowhere, so that it also reassert to have its voting rights, so that it will be able to follow up all of this.
C.
Thank you.
The shares we have are type C. Abedi.
Right Honorable Speaker, on the recommendation which reads through the Minister of Energy and the Mineral Development, the government should initiate processes to renegotiate. I want us to repress renegotiate with review, so that we don't say renegotiate. We say a process to review, because the end might be a termination. So we should review, not renegotiate.
Those in favor say on the contrary. The ayes. Xavier.
Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My amendment is in line with the figures and therefore with the recommendations thereafter. Right Honorable Speaker, when you go to page 15, first of all, I want to thank the committee. They have done a tremendous job. I thank you very much. Now, when you look at that table, the future value of bear, of Ujigali, definitely had to fall once they redeemed their shares. Because to get the future value of Ujigali, they got their current investment then multiplied by the future value, and they got the future value. So when you look at when they were redeeming their shares, that means actually their future value was reducing. Now, look at around 2015, when actually the original investment had reduced to 10 million US dollars. That means the future value should have correspondingly reduced, because you would get the future value multiplied by the investment then. So what does this imply? It actually implies, by the way, to make an observation of that, while they still had only 10 million US dollars, they would keep on getting 5.5 million as their return on investments, more than 50%. So, right on Speaker, the amendment I'm making to that effect is that that table needs to be reviewed so that the equity for bear in terms of US dollars should move with the redemption of those shares up to 2015, and thereafter the equity and future value should be based on 10 million US dollars. And accordingly, the recommendation thereafter should fall within those figures. Honorable Gatesh, the chairperson, what we are talking about, this is in our accounting. I would like to hear from Honorable Nanda and others about the future values, because that's what you did. To get the future value of bear, you actually go to the current investment, then you multiply by the future value. That's when you got 300 plus. So the more they were reducing the shares, their future value was also reducing. And actually, to be specific, at around 2015, the government of Uganda had more future value than bear, put it simple. So accordingly, I would beg that the subsequent amendments to that effect capture these figures, right, Honorable. I thank you.
That's why I've said I want a forensic audit. We may not be able to understand the figures so much. Let these figures be understood or analyzed by the auditors.
Okay, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, what Xavier has raised is what we have done. We are saying the future value is exaggerated. That from 2007 to 2012, first of all, if you have said you are charging interest at 19%, then you should have paid tax on the interest. That's number one, where to get the 63 million. Now from there, having got that, then from 2012, that's how you should have based how to compute the future value at the return of 19. But the moment every year you redeem, you change again the return on the return will be on the balance, not on the amount of 20, not the original figure. And that's what we're saying, that there, with the people in the era, with the people in the Ministry of Energy, colluded to maintain a figure which is very wrong.
Angora.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also want to thank the committee for a very good report. And I just want to request that an amendment be made. The chair told us that the agreement had expected us to generate 250 megawatts. However, what is supplied now is 160. And yet the charges are based on capacity charge. Honorable colleagues, there are two types of energy charge. We have the energy charge and the capacity charge. Capacity charge is based on the expected production as per the agreement. Now this is 250. And yet energy charge, the installed capacity is the 250. Then energy charge is based on what you supply on a day-to-day basis as requested by UETCL. So here, the chair told us that the expected capacity to be generated was 250. And yet the charges are based on capacity. I want to amend that the charges now be based on energy. What they supply is what the charges should be based on. I thank you.
Edakas.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Just to add my voice, thank you so much for this committee. I think the people who are saying this house should stop ad hoc committees are part of the feasting. And I think we should continue with this. I am extremely impressed by this report. Madam Speaker, mine is on the issue of tax waivers and tax holidays. We are learning from other countries. Recently, when you sent us to benchmark in Zambia, we noted that tax holidays and waivers did not necessarily benefit that country. I would like to propose that government reviews this policy on tax waivers, partly because of what we are seeing constantly. Right now, even on this report, you see that Bell decided as soon as they realized they were making money, they started withdrawing their investment. So these investors end their participation in the economy before the time given them for the tax holiday. They also distort trade within the country because our own traders do not get the advantage. So I think this particular policy on tax waiver should be reviewed. I thank you.
Thank you, Apollo.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Thanks to the committee for the work well done, work that had a lot of statistics. Madam Speaker, in one of the statements, the chairperson highlighted that at the time of investigation, it was unclear on who was charged with the responsibility of monitoring, which was a very, very big gap based on this project that is taking a longer period of time. So I would make a proposal that we name the line ministry to be in charge of the monitoring, and then they report to the House periodically so that we continue getting updates about the project than leaving it open to nobody. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Tony.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and allow me to thank the committee for this very clear report. Right Honorable Speaker, looking at the conclusion of the report, the committee presented that the investors usually come with a very powerful lawyers and negotiators that tend to overpower our team during negotiations. And that's why we end up coming with this kind of agreements. Now, I would want to know from the Attorney General, we are recommending renegotiation or review. Do you have the men and women with the intent and capacity enough to sit on the table with those team of the investors so that we'll be able to come out with a better review? Or we may end up again coming with a worse situation. Right Honorable Speaker, in the 11th Parliament, these recommendations were made. Instead of renegotiating, they went for refinancing. 10th Parliament, rather. Now, I would think we recommend that the Attorney General should present a team of competent people with a good intent that cannot defraud the country, so that they are the ones presented at the review and negotiation. Otherwise, we'll go back to square one. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Yes, Law.
I'm putting a colleague on order. Is he in order, Madam Speaker, to underrate the capacity of our legal brains that normally the Attorney General assembles to handle matters of agreements like this? Rather, you would have doubted their capacity to resist being compromised by the USD dollars that are dashed and flashed at them. Is in order, Madam Speaker?
Of course, any other person would only have trust in KK, not the ones being delegated. I would say is in order. Cecilia, May.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, you know I'm very uncomfortable about the Class C shareholding status. And of course, you know I'm very uncomfortable that Uganda government does not have a hand in the governance or in the management of the company. Therefore, personally, I don't have the trust in the figures that will be given by the company to our auditors. That's one thing we should keep at the back of our minds. I want to move an amendment on term of reference 1 on page 18, where we said Bell should refund the government of Uganda the excess payment of US dollars 342,198,189 for a period of 10 years since 2012 plus surcharge. I beg to move, Right Honorable Speaker, that the Ministry of Finance should report to the House the progress made towards this refund in 6 months. I beg to move.
But we have said we don't trust the figures. We are subjecting these figures to a forensic audit. So the refund should be done after the forensic audit has found out how much money we are supposed to get.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment with the view of regulating dividend payments, because one of the challenges the committee observed was unregulated dividend payments, which aided exit of some people. So I would want to propose that
Honorable Kabiang,
any.
This is not for discussion. If you want to discuss in the House, you go to the corridors.
Madam Speaker, I would want to propose that any further dividend payments must be put on hold until Parliament resolves this matter. And that will involve after we have discussed Auditor General's report. Secondly, I want to propose that none of the current shareholders of Bell must exit Bell. That means they are not supposed to sell their shares until we establish facts around this. Thirdly, this Bell structure, as I said, is a very complex structure, which is facilitating illicit financial flows. I want to invite as a recommendation that the Financial Intelligence Authority, using the beneficial ownership law, must establish who are the owners of these companies so that we should be able to expose them internationally. They are the reasons we are not having hospitals. They are the reasons we are not paying teachers. They are the reasons a lot of things are going wrong in this country. Lastly, Honorable Nandala clarified that there is collusion which led to ERA not doing their work, collusion that led to people we have put in charge not doing their work. Madam, this requires that there must be action. This action must be taken by the Prime Minister. I would like, therefore, to invite the Prime Minister and make a recommendation that ERA, the people who negotiated this agreement must have some explanation to do to the Prime Minister, so that we know their role in relation to bringing such a raw deal for the government. And lastly, I want to make a recommendation for the Parliamentary Committee on National Economy. They are the ones who cleared this refinancing loan. And we got to know that there was a loss of about $9.4 million. That when the committee is passing loans, it must do thorough work. Otherwise, we would have avoided many things. And
thank you, Elijah.
Madam Speaker, last one. There are international financing agents involved here. We have the African Development Bank. We have the International Finance Corporation, the arm of World Bank. I think we must express our dissatisfaction with these financial entities. They have aided all these complex illicit structures that has led to the country losing a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Elijah.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I will start by amending what my brother is saying about the people who are responsible for negotiating, and especially those who are political leaders who sit in this house. They should not only go to the Prime Minister, should have an explanation to this house. The other technical people can go and make explanation to the Prime Minister, but the political leadership who sit in this house, Minister of Finance, Minister of Energy, must come and do explanation.
They don't clap in the house.
To Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, is on the issue of the waivers. As we are giving the Auditor General 2 months, I think government of Uganda, Minister of Finance should not bring any waiver until this matter is resolved. There shouldn't be any waiver given until the 2 months when we have got the results. We suspend all the waivers until Auditor General has done his work. Thank you.
Thank you. Rukongere.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I also thank the committee for their wonderful report. On page 30, they recommend that the Ministry of Finance accounts for the 2.8 million US dollars. Although you have wrote that the figures that they should do a forensic report, wouldn't it be good if the Ministry of Finance comes out and gives us what they would like to tell us about this report, because they need to account for this. Can they?
Assuming they come and tell you that it's not 2.3, it is 2, it is 2, or it is 5.
That means, Right Honorable Speaker, what I was asking is that they should give us their accounts and a statement about these figures. Thank you.
Nathan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am, Right Honorable Speaker, me, I'm happy that this issue of energy has come to the ears of members of parliament. There is somebody somewhere who has been condemning parliament about energy. It took us a lot of time to tell the government, why do you hurry? Put a signature whereby you assure people of the volume of water as if you are God. It has come back here, Madam Speaker. And I can tell you, even the Auditor General you are talking about doesn't have the people of quality like you have seen that gentleman, Honorable Choma. We have a better quality people here than the Auditor General office. And I can tell you, I respect
Nathan, leave my stuff. Auditor General has good people.
I withdraw. Madam Speaker, even you have seen, as soon as the issue of the iron sheets came up, the IGG said it would be through within about 2 weeks. Our committee was able to produce a report here. So I don't trust some of those people you are talking about. They are our people. For us, we are accountable to our people. We want the unit cost to be low.
So should we act outside the law because we don't trust people?
Not the law. I'm cautioning that we must be more careful. For example, we have had attorney generals. Somebody yesterday said, this studio you see here is the only attorney general have seen him attending parliament every day. The rest were not part of us. These things happened under the nose of so many attorney generals. So I'm saying, Chidioha is one of the few breeds that we could be having. Honorable
Kiriowa Kiwanuka, the Attorney General.
Yes, Attorney General. Okay. My worry is for us to go back again would rather to me.
Honorable Age, since the House has said you are the best age, can you kindly help us and work on this?
Actually, I would rather you cancel the agreement. We pay the costs, but we get all those Shyrocks. I thank you.
Thank you, Max. Max Quinn.
Right Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity. Right Honorable Speaker, whenever there is a thick cloud, there's a silver lining. I want to appreciate the contribution that the committee made by producing this report, because this report has been able to identify the fact that the PPP project managed to contribute to the enhanced energy output. And in that respect, I want to thank government for that initiative. That said, I want to make a contribution to amendment of a recommendation, which says that URA should recover the tax proceeds that were foregone prior to the granting of the tax exemption. That recommendation presupposes, Madam Speaker, that URA has the capacity to do that. The last time I recall interacting with URA, they were actually crying. They want their capacity enhanced. Could I therefore propose that we amend that recommendation to the effect that Minister of Finance enhances both the institutional and then the human resource capacity of URA, not only to collect revenue, but also to assess tax? I thank you.
Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I want to begin by thanking the chair and all the members who went through this report very carefully. Madam Speaker and colleagues, it is a big shock that the entire country is crying over power. And coming to look at the report and the figures with the money misused, you wonder whether we have legal people in this country. In fact, I'm not even believing in other amendments because Honorable Nandala said this thing has been renegotiated, amended many times in favor of one party. In favor of one party. This shows that all the people who have been handling have been on one side. There is nobody who is in favor of the country. And that's why Honorable Nassan has got, has actually told us he has no hope with the Auditor General. Because I'm sure even the Auditor General all along from the time the project started have been auditing. Okay, maybe he has never. So Madam Speaker, maybe to end,
You
the
know,
country.
Auditor General is an officer of Parliament. So you're telling the country that your own officer, which is very wrong.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the correction. But at a certain time, we must also tell ourselves where we are wrong.
No, that's not correct. The Auditor General is doing its work.
Okay, we saw
First of all, blame the people who made the agreement. That is the beginning point. Auditor General did not make the agreement. Auditor General did not make all those inefficiencies.
Let me end by.
Can you conclude?
Honorable members, I think this is the higher time that we take our country wholesomely. Let us respect the people who send us to Parliament. Let us be keen with all these agreements, because this is not the only project that has died. Even as in Sabay, there is an irrigation scheme which has taken almost
So
100
which amendment are you making?
Madam Speaker.
Make the amendment. Which amendment are you
Okay,
making?
the amendment I'm making, Madam Speaker, is that all the members who have been handling this project should be investigated too. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Solo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for accepting me touch your eye.
You've not touched my hand.
I've caught your eye. I would like to thank the committee for this massive report. It has given us the picture how Ujigali is. I want to propose, Right Honorable Speaker, through your wisdom, that we have more power purchase agreements in this country. I would like to propose a recommendation that also other power purchase agreements should also be reviewed to avoid the situation of Ujigali.
AG, you may need to interest yourself in all the purchase agreements. Lomo, that's a very good point.
Thank you very much, Madam
Hey,
Speaker.
those in favor say on the contrary. Guys have it.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the ad hoc committee. The work which was done is tremendous and very good for the country. But I need to be helped by the Attorney General, where in 2013, because after investment of $179 million, they withdrew almost all the money. And what was remaining, or what is remaining, is $10 million. And Uganda's shares of $20 million are still intact. I need to be helped. Is now Uganda having the highest shareholding in that company or not? Secondly, is Uganda now the highest investor in BEL? And if so, the Land Attorney General can advise about the shareholding of status of Uganda and BLE in as far as redemption of shares is concerned, and our $20 million. Thank you.
The class C of the shares, Atkins, no. No, you're going to respond to all.
Both.
You're going to respond to all.
Madam Speaker, I really want to thank you. For recap purposes, in the 10th Parliament, there was a select committee that was constituted, and I had the chance to be a member. Madam Speaker, we never even sat for 1 second. You can imagine this House constituting a committee that never sat even for 1 second for this particular matter. So, Madam Speaker, this country owes you a thank you. And our chair and your committee, thank you very much for the job well done. And Mr. Attorney General, you make us all proud. Madam Speaker,
Can't you even clap for Attorney General?
Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, there is a trail. And one of my cousin brothers, who happens to be an examiner of one of those UNEP subjects, as he was going through the students' papers, and they said, what is Uganda's economy? One of the questions. One of the students, or many of the students, answered corruption. And that's how low we have sunk as a country. Madam Speaker, I suggest as an amendment, if it pleases you, that these people that have gotten us into this mess are known. We thank God that they're still holding office. Some of these people are the same that will continue asking to negotiate. I ask that these people should be marked, clearly identified, and kept aside for further negotiations. But my specific amendment, Madam Speaker, is that tariffs should be kept either lower than what it is today, or at a constant until feedback has become available from the process that we're trying to undertake. And may I also lastly suggest, Madam Speaker, that this entire technical team, specifically from ERA and then also finance, should face a relevant committee of this parliament. It's not enough to make a reference of this whole undertaking to the Prime Minister. We have the capability, and Madam Speaker, I don't know, but when I look at the members, we've been served with now, the Attorney General, Honorable Katesh, Honorable Cooper. We have capabilities within this House. And in conclusion, I really want to ask everybody in this House for us to have trust in our capabilities, in our members, and also to give the honor that is due specifically to the committees that we constitute as a House. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Avoro.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, for having instituted this select committee. And one of the reasons why I do say that, as a Committee of Finance, this will indeed make our work a little bit easier as we move towards the period where we are going to look at tax bills. And Right Honorable Speaker, I want to amend recommendation on the TOR 5. Right Honorable Speaker, before I make the amendment, this country is grappling with issue of resource mobilization, and where any taxpayer or would-be taxpayer is trying to avoid or evade tax, as Parliament, we should come in to support URA. And therefore, that's why I want to amend recommendation where the recommendation says the committee recommends that URA should undertake a comprehensive tax audit on bail to ascertain compliance with tax obligations. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to add that, and where it is found that they are not compliant with the tax, the due tax must be collected as soon as possible. Right Honorable Speaker. Within maybe a period of 1 month.
Okay.
As soon as possible. Right?
URA has an obligation to ensure that they collect tax and they correct tax, and they must do it as stipulated by the law. So you don't need to give them, actually it is their responsibility to do it.
Right,
So
maybe
they will do it.
Maybe in this case, we should even say with penalties.
The law is there. The law is there.
Also applied.
Law.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I commence with urging the House, this is my proposal, to amend the law. The Public Finance Management Act, Section 77, so that it requires any tax exemption that is granted by the responsible line minister to be approved by this House. The second one, before I go to the second proposal that I would make, Madam Speaker.
There is a information.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and also Honorable Ambassador Leader of Opposition. In fact, the Constitution of Uganda says any tax waiver or change is by Parliament. So that section you're talking of the PFM, if it is saying so, which I'm not so sure, then it is in contravening the what? The Constitution.
Thank you for the supplementary information you have given. So the truth of the matter is that there is an omission in the Public Finance Management Act not to have allowed Parliament to approve any exemptions that are granted by the line minister.
Madam Speaker, I was seeking clarification from the chair, who is whispering to the neighbor. Especially when this report, I must commence with appreciating you and your team for this good report. But I know you copied a leaf from most of the proposals, a raft of proposals that the opposition legislative agenda had raised. But what I'm seeking for clarification is on where you say the actual production is not directly proportional to the capital investment. And yet the demand for power in Uganda is very high. So the dam at Ujigali is underutilized. Underutilized would mean, therefore, that where is the much hyped deemed energy, the surplus? Because with the advanced technology, the surplus can be stored. It is storable. But now that is not there. So could you please throw light on that? Are they merely taking Ugandans for a ride? And lastly, Madam Speaker, is that all these big companies that have been cutting shady deals with the government, getting tax exemptions should be investigated. Because on average, Uganda lost in 5 years from the financial year 2016, 2017 to the last one, 2020, 2021. We lost 21.5 trillion in revenue to exemption is bonanza that had been granted by the government. So there is a need.
We gave a committee of finance that report to make analysis of the companies that are given exemptions and report back to the House. What could have happened? Chair.
The report is ready, Madam Chair.
Can we have that report? We want to understand which companies get exemptions and the criteria that is used to give out the exemptions.
Much obliged. We'll be seeking to be on the order.
So can we have it next week? AG.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the many comments that have been made by honorable colleagues, and we've noted them, and they come from the way we do our work, and we take this seriously. Right Honorable Speaker, we are doing our best at the General Chambers, and we're sure we'll try and do more and work harder. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm going to comment on 2 or 3 issues that relate directly to the issue at hand. The issue of the shareholding terms. The terms of the shareholding were already set in the agreement. And those are some of the things that but this class C shares did not give us authority to participate in the governance, but we also could not redeem, to answer my learned friend's question. Now, the investor has redeemed most of his investment, but has left 10. But that does not make us the highest shareholders, because you remember they have already the expected value in the business. So to answer your question, we are not the highest shareholder, but in an investment such as this one, if you choose to buy out someone, you can buy them out, and it's just a question of the economics and the balance of that. Right Honorable Speaker, the breaches that have been raised, clarification.
Right Honorable Speaker, the point that the much praised the Attorney General saying so because when people are still in office, I am hesitant to praise them because the former Dean Focal to blow at Makerere Professor Makubi turned out to be the worst attorney general with all his knowledge. So I'm hesitant to join the chorus. But the question, the president has repeatedly said, we want to buy out Ujigali. That's how the tariffs come down. You are explaining how that can be done. Maybe this parliament will need to know, with all your knowledge and experience, how far you've gone with negotiations to have this Ujigali closed once and for all. Because this debate of waiver will not even be arising if what the president has repeatedly said had been done. The clarification, as the president abandoned now, you are saying if the economics allow. So are you now blaming the economics for not buying out Ujigali?
Madam Speaker, Attorney General, I have seen the recommendation. Based on your knowledge, you know most of these international firms, shareholding change position, directors change position, and if the recommendation for fraud is labeled on the corporate liability, you think shall benefit anything? Don't you think it's proper for us to lift the veil in our recommendation? Say liabilities, refund, and any fraud and pollution should go to bail, including its directors and shareholders. This will take us the bedrooms of some of these directors, because some of them is Aga Khan, for example. They attest and cite the commitment of transparency and corruption of OECD, the US commitment to standard. If we lift the veil and attach the shareholders, attach the directors, then we'll have gone to the root and the bedroom of international fraudsters. Don't you think it's proper in our recommendation? Recommend that government lifts the veil and attaches responsibility of pollution and fraud to the shareholders and directors of Bell and associated companies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kanya. A company as a corporate entity cannot commit a criminal offense. The criminal offense, if found, is committed by the minds behind the company. So if we find that there is fraud, I don't know. If we find that there was fraud, or we find a criminal of a criminal nature, then it goes to the mind of the person, that is the director and the shareholder. Honorable Semuju, the option is still there, and the issue of buying out is always a question of economics. It's money, and it is always going to be a matter that has to come back here. Right, Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues, the issue of the PPAs was already raised. It was already raised in this House, and what I can only do is go back to ERA to find out how far they have gone, because I did give them an instruction to review. And I was also advised that they have standardized all their PPAs to make sure that we do not have any slidings, but I'll check and report back to the House. Right, Honorable Speaker, all the issues that have been raised, Right, Honorable Speaker, just allow us to go back and study this matter and come back to the House with the proposals of how we can get out of this situation. The whole interest for all of us is to have a low tariff and get out of any bad contracts that we have. And we have some that we have already started reviewing, and we're going to come back to you. So we beg that, honorable colleagues, I'd like to thank the committee again and members of the House for the guidance you've given us on this report. And we take these issues very serious, very, very serious, and we shall definitely come back to the House. I beg to
So
submit.
you're going to bring the proposals and the actions that you have related. Yes, sir. And we've given you 3 months. Within 3 months, you can even bring it to me. I now put a question that the report of ad hoc committee on Ujigali tax waiver be adopted by this House. Those with amendments, those in favor say on the contrary nay. The ayes have it. Honorable members, we have a session tomorrow. Would you kindly go for COVID tests? I adjourn the House to 2 tomorrow at Kololo.